Folks, we are back from the last time we did this round table. This is Steve Sanson, Frank Friends, Robert Madoff, Gianno Amato, Jim Jonas, Matthew Phillips. Did I miss anybody? I got it. Oh, shit, I missed him from the very beginning. Robert Faust. And we're going to do a live judicial roundtable for the following contest. Family Court, Nevada Supreme Court, Nevada Appellate Court, and North Las Vegas Justice Court, and Las Vegas Justice Court. And we're going to recommend, and if we already endorsed the candidate, we'll let you know if we did or not. I know we recommended from the primary, and we could change that if we want, because the only thing that we can change is endorsement. And if you candidates showed up to our endorsement interviews, maybe you would have been endorsed, but you didn't. So we're going to go around the table, and what we're going to do, we're going to go to each department, and we're going to talk about the candidates in each department. The person that has those candidates is going to talk first, and then we're all going to chime in and bring our 2 cents in and let the public know what type of information we have on a particular candidate and why we should vote or not vote for that particular candidate. So the first one is Frank Friends. He has District Court Judge, Family Division, Department E. 2 candidates in there, Chuck Hoskins and Thomas Kurtz. Frank?
Thank you, Steve. So we got Charles Hoskins, or Chuck Hoskins, but I just call him Judge Hoskins. And Kirk Thomas didn't fill out anything for the Ballotopia to have information on him or for people to be able to look up who he is and what he's done and what he's about. I couldn't even find his approval rating or his return case rating or over rating of his cases. Found nothing on him outside of the fact that he ran in 2014. Didn't win, but he ran. And then Hoskins, we actually we know pretty well. And I know you and Hoskins got you guys' little thing, you know. But I will say this.
What little thing is that?
You know, you two do not get along, and it's been snipes at you. So I understand.
There's some stuff in the social media about me.
There's some things about our hostile litigations and our hostile litigants from our group of veterans in politics, which is very weird because originating, he was my judge, and he was very fair in the beginning of our case. He gave the mom the opportunity to clean her shit up if she wanted to see our daughter, and she chose not to, so now all that's done. You know, I have complete custody. But he is one of the only judges when we're there on Mondays.
Just to be clear, he didn't give you custody.
No, because he got taken off my case and given the seat that he's in now because the judge who took my case lost the seat that he has due to whatever unknown circumstances were involved in that. But when we used to go every Monday, he was one of the only judges working. Sorry, he just was. He was the only one there doing his damn job. He has been fair in every single litigation that we have sat in when he sees our veterans in politics shirts. He's even, you know, told people, you know, I can't do this and I can't do that. And he's very by the book when we are sitting right there. 88 judges evaluated him at a 71%. And in Clark County of the justices, he got a 90% favorable voting rate to keep him on the bench where he's at now. Because, again, that wasn't his original position before. He was in courtroom 2, not courtroom 1. Remember, that changed from that situation that you know about. People say that he is generally feels like he's giving a fair hearing. And again, I can only attest to when we are there, he is fair. You know what I mean? And he does play it by the book. But there's been people that said he's done things, and you've had your issues with him. I think you can go into a little more detail than I can. But like I said, Thomas I found absolutely nothing on him. Like, not even a Ballotopia or Ballotpedia, anything. His recidivism rate, his approval by other judges like Hoskins at 71. Thomas doesn't have any of that. So,
Open for discussion.
Robert Faust, veteran, author. Did you have any evidence
Robert Faust, congratulations on your book, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you very much. In fact, I have a copy of it with me here. It's called Last Draftees. It'll be out this weekend. It's $21.95, and you can order it on Amazon.
Beautiful.
So do you have any knowledge of an ex parte between the other counsel and your lawyer? Between your opposing counsel and the judge?
at the time, during my case, no knowledge, but he only got to sit on my case for a very short time because, again, whatever happened between him, the situation in the courtroom, and then the other judge who's now in room 2, they switched because Hoskins was originally in room 2. He was my original judge. He sat, gave me and the mom the orders, and neither one of us had attorneys in the beginning at that time.
What was the reason for the judge switch?
That I don't know. Steve knows more about that than I do.
Was that the point of your contentious conversation with the judge?
Since the cameras are on me, let me just talk about the two candidates in that race. Chuck Hoskin, he's been around a while. Chuck Hoskins used to be the presiding judge in family court, and I'm not too familiar if he got removed forcefully or if he was asked to step down or his term was up. But his term he was done with presiding judge, and Bryce Duckworth took over, who is very friendly with Judge Hoskins because those two are always going to lunch at the Bonanza Lounge. They're always going to lunch there, Hoskins and Duckworth. So, but Hoskins.
Steve, sorry to interrupt. Actually, I mixed that up. Duckworth was my original judge. Hoskins is the one now.
Okay.
Yeah, I mixed that up. That's my fault. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, you're right, because I was there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Judge Hoskins came on extreme criticism with John Norheim, who used to be the hearing master, who still is the hearing master of family court. But John Norheim used to be the head of the guardianship. And Judge Hoskins was in charge of guardianship with John Norheim, and Judge Hoskins was removed from guardianship. Matter of fact, there is a documentary called The Guardian on Amazon Prime, and it talks about our family court in Clark County with the guardianship. A lot of stars are on there, like Steve Wilson, all the other judges. So it's if anybody has an opportunity to go to Amazon Prime, get The Guardian, put The Guardian on it, and watch it. It only costs about $3 to watch. So it'll tell you all about what's going on with Judge Hoskins if everybody wanted to. You should have just looked at that. That would have gave you a much better perspective on Judge Hoskins. Judge Hoskins tried to he put in a resume for an appointment to be an appellate court judge, which I had the opportunity to sit in and watch. And there was about, I would say, 15 to 20 people that showed up that was against Judge Hoskins moving up in the ranks to be an appellate court judge. Also, Judge Hoskins received the most letters to the Judicial Selection Committee that people didn't want him to be an appellate court judge. As a matter of fact, a lot of the things that was in these letters, people want him not to be a judge at all. Yeah. So he had the most letters to not become an appellate court judge, and that's significant. The Vegas Voice did a story. On the guardianship of Judge Hoskins, and I know a lot of people that want Judge Hoskins gone. Now, as far as Thomas Kurtz is concerned, Thomas Kurtz used to be a hearing master in family court, and then I don't know what happened, but Judge Hoskin, I believe, was in charge of the hearing masters, or had something to do with the hearing masters, so he might have had something to do with Thomas Kurtz not being in family court as a hearing master anymore. But that's all I have on those two individuals. Did that answer your question, Mr. Faust?
Yes, you did. So, were you satisfied with Judge Hoskins?
In the beginning, no, because I had the mother dead to rights, over 27 contempts of courts, multiple drug use admitted by the mother while pregnant with her secondary child, which in the state of Nevada is child abuse. State of Nevada, a child abuser is not allowed to have custody of a child. But eventually it got to the point where the mother just kept hanging herself with all the evidence, and now I have terminated the mother's rights and we've moved on. But it 2.5 years, 3 years fighting.
So you feel that Judge Hoskins should have taken your allegations of drug abuse with your wife at a more serious level than he did earlier in the case?
Well, it wasn't my wife. It was an ex-girlfriend of mine. But the issue to me is she admitted using drugs while pregnant. They did nothing about that. She popped positive for multiple uses of harder drugs, including methamphetamine. Our daughter would have UTIs every time she came back from the mother's house, which, is you not cleaning the child, not taking care of the child. And it took 2.5, 3 years for them to finally just tell the mother, that's it. You're just done.
Hold on, Mr. Faust.
Was the fact that you weren't married, was that a problem?
It didn't seem to be. You know what I mean? He didn't seem to care about that. It was basically, do you want child support? Does she want child support?
Legally.
Who's the child going
I'm
with?
talking about, was there a legal issue with you not being married to her that you would not get custody? I'm trying to figure out if Judge Hoskins was playing some sort of a intervention role. Well, you're not really married to her, so you haven't been a good father. That's the kind of thing I'm saying.
No, he never once said anything about our marriage. He said our case was overly litigated, and that's because I had to take her back to court 12 times.
All right, well, hold on, guys. We got a whole slew. Last time we did this, we were here for like 3-4 hours on one thing. We don't got that much time today, so let's just move on. Anybody else got anything on Department E? No? So, Judge Charles Hoskin or Thomas G. Kurtz for recommendation?
Again, although my experience was the way it was, it went in my favor. He has a very high approval rating, and the Thomas Kurtz guy has nothing. No ballotopia outside of the litigation you said he did years ago. And
so you would go with Kurtz?
No, I would go.
I'm sorry, Hoskin.
I would go to Hoskins over Kurtz because I have more information on him, and he does have a higher approval rating.
Anybody else would go with Hoskin?
I wouldn't vote for either one of them.
Okay. we got to recommend one of them because one of them is going to be judge.
I don't typically just arbitrarily go with incumbents, but the gentleman that's running against him is just running to run, so I don't have a problem with Hoskin.
Matthew?
I think I'm with this distinguished gentleman here.
I'm
with
staying
this.
out?
Yes, I'm staying out of this one. I can't. In all conscience, I think it's hard to actually recommend, one of these guys. But that's just me. So.
Gianno?
Yeah, so I'm gonna stay out of it. The problem is if I recommend one of them, and I haven't looked them up, so I'm gonna stay out of that one. I wouldn't want to regret the decision.
Robert?
I'm gonna go with Frank because Frank, you were in front of him, so I'm gonna back Frank's support.
All right, so I guess we're recommended Hoskin. Moving right along. Am I going to get some slack for that? Moving right along, going to Department G, still in the family court. The contest is with Benjamin Childs.
Brendan Childs.
Ben Childs.
Brendan.
Oh, who?
Brendan.
No, I got Benjamin Senior Charles.
Oh, I got Brendan Childs. My bad.
Yeah, there's a second one. There's another Charles.
Benjamin. This is Family Court Division Department G, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah,
I know my eyes is not what it used to be. Benjamin Child and Rhonda Fosberg. Frank.
Yeah, that's me. Again, Benjamin Childs couldn't find much on. What I did find on Rhonda, though, is she has some really weird ties to a group called Legal Aid Center of Nevada. And I found a lot on them.
Okay, go ahead.
They're a pro bono situation going on. And CenturyLink had to do a subpoena compliance. And they confirmed that an IP address, 138.210.38.232, and the Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada had a content trace back to those same IP address, had been associated with racial slurs, such as extremely against anger and interracial dating, objective to dating habits of adult white men, starving minority children, rigged divorce degrees, like whoever got divorced, make sure the mother wins. These were comments that they were sending back and forth from these IP addresses that she's highly involved in. Let's see. After the subpoena came out, Director Terry S. Batten attached it in a way that confirms true colors of the Legal Nevada Center of Nevada Aid. They're stating that Terry acted like a coward with all of these people, and he didn't fire any of the people involved in it or the pro bono attorneys who were sending these messages back and forth. And she was highly attached to every bit of that. And there was one of them, again, they're still doing the subpoena and tracing it through, like to use the N-word with the hard ER. And that's who she is directly connected to.
We're talking about Rhonda Fosberg, right?
Yes, Rhonda Fosberg is directly connected to the Legal Aid Center in Nevada and a lot of this subpoena and IP address stuff. And again, they're talking about starving minority children, giving women basically rigged divorce decrees, like just giving it to the mother and things like that. And the dating habits of adult white men and racial slurs and against interracial, relationships and things of that nature. And that's in a court subpoena. That's found.
Did you find anything on Benjamin Child?
Nothing. Not even about Latopia.
Anybody have any?
I wanted to say a few words about the Southern, what is it called? Nevada Southern Legal Aid Center, or Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada.
Southern Nevada Legal Aid Center.
The fascist institution that hires predatory lawyers, that one is when, I've had experience with them, and ostensibly they're pro bono lawyers. They're supposed to be for free. But what they do is after they do the case, they get paid, and they want to get paid. And they do everything they can to ramp up the litigation. They do everything they can to ramp up the conflict and ramp up the billing and ramp up the fees. And the attorneys that I've seen in connection with the Southern, whatever, I can't say the whole acronym, but those attorneys are the worst in terms of ethics. And I see this. And from what I can see, that Legal Aid Center is funded by, I think, by the NWO. It's really the kind of thing that's trying to cause
a lot of
dissension.
grant money goes into that.
Yeah, I think it's there to foment hostility among us and to keep people at odds and fighting. And so I think it's just a negative fascist institution, and that's my 2 cents. So.
Anybody else?
I'm wondering if Childs is a relative of the other Childs, Kevin. Is that his name?
No, I know for a fact it's not. I used to get them confused.
Kissing cousins or anything?
No. So it's actually Ben Childs, and it's Kevin Child.
Right. Okay.
So they're actually completely different.
The S is missing.
Well, I say that anybody that won't, in this day, with the age of modern media, anybody that can't put up a web page that's running for judge or any other legal office,
and who are we talking about?
Is pretty much brainwashed.
Who are we talking about? Benjamin.
Childs, yeah.
Okay.
He can't get anything up. And then anybody that's stupid enough to let negative publicity like this executive center that hires the lawyers, anybody that would associate with them and let that become public probably isn't too moral anyway. So I wouldn't vote for either one of them.
Okay.
If I could just chime in on this, Benjamin, what's his name? Childs. I mean, it makes me wonder. Here's the question I have: why is this guy in the race? You know, because I bet if I were to look at this guy's C&D reports, the contribution and expense reports, meaning how much is contributed to their campaign, how much are they spending in expenses, you can see this at the Nevada Secretary of State website. I got a feeling that this guy's probably, not spending any money at all, And I don't know this for a fact, but it raises the question, why is this person in the race? Are they trying to throw the match? I mean, I don't know. Are they really trying to win? Is this a situation like the 1919 Chicago White Sox where they're, who knows? It raises so many inferences. To me, I think it's you have to ask yourself, are they trying to win? Now, we know this happens in regular contests like R versus D, that Republican-Democrat stuff. I expect that kind of shenanigans and skullduggery going on with R and D, but these are supposed to be attorneys and judges. And as an attorney, you're hardwired to win. When you're in the cage, you want to fight to win. This idea of not trying and no effort and they're not spending any money, not raising any funds, it really begs the question, why are they in the race?
Maybe he read Forsberg's memo on the internet, and he figures he doesn't have to spend any money to beat her.
All right, let me give the rundown that I know about the two. Benjamin Childs has ran, I believe, a couple of times already, Jim.
Yeah.
I believe I'm pretty sure this will be his fourth time.
Yeah. And Rhonda Fosberg, I had the opportunity and pleasure to sit in on her appointment when she was before the Nevada Judicial Selection Committee. She's appointed by the governor in replacement of Diane Steele, former Judge Diane Steele. I have heard some negative stuff about Judge Forsberg, but I don't have anything to back up what anybody said about her, nor was I really looking to try to expose Judge Forsberg. But I'm just glad that she decided to go for the appointment and get it. But either way, it's your candidate. Who would you recommend?
Well, that's my issue. Like I said, with the Benjamin stuff, no ballotopia, no recidivism rate on his cases, nothing.
Nothing on him. He's ghost.
He's ghost. And her, the only thing I found is that she has ties to that legal aid center in Nevada. Never met her, never seen any of her cases, nothing like that. So for lack of information on both candidates, I can't say I recommend either. Unless you, like you said, you've personally met her, is there a good vibe? Is there anything that would flaw her character?
I know this, that and the way my thinking is that one of them is going to be judged.
Yeah.
So we need to recommend one of them. Either we're going to recommend somebody that's going to win, or we're going to recommend somebody that's going to lose. But basically, we're looking for out of the two, who is better for the community out of the two. There is no third dog in this race.
Well, to me, then you'd have to go with Rhonda because she's at least known and there's information on her.
And at least she went before the Judicial Selection Committee, so they investigated her.
Committee.
So you go with Forsberg.
Yeah, you'd have to because, like I said, there's nothing on Benjamin that tells us about his cases or who he is.
We already know which direction Foss is going. What
I'm going to go with Brendan Childs. I'm going to go with some new blood.
You changing it up?
Yeah. Oh,
okay. Matt,
we know what Forsberg is.
True. So
would I give Childs a chance, and we'll find out what he is.
Okay. Matt?
Well, it may be the case that, like you're suggesting, that he's just roll the dice and maybe you're going to win. But the question I have is, it seems like they're not trying. I don't know these candidates. I haven't looked at the race, but I'm getting the feeling that this guy, Benjamin Childs, is not really trying. Now, the other one, I think Rhonda Fosberg, I guess her name is, it looks like she's playing to win, but unless I see that person's contribution and expense reports, I'm wondering, is she paying somebody to try to convince a candidate to fall asleep? I mean, I'd like to see who she's paying money to, because that's a big problem.
She just has more money than him because she's getting supported by the Southern Nevada legal thing. That's what's going on.
What did they spend the money on when they give her the money? It's just billboards and advertisements? Or?
Okay. Look here.
Okay.
Look here. We in 35 minutes. We only did 2 seats.
Okay.
We're still on the second seat, actually.
Okay.
Jim, what do you got?
The only reason why I won't go with Ben is because I actually know him fairly well, but his experience in family law is very, very minimal. He's tried like 2 family law cases that I'm aware of.
Okay.
So,
Robert?
Yeah, I'll go with Forsberg as
What'd
well.
you say, Robert?
I will definitely go with Forsberg as well.
Okay. Amado?
Forsberg.
Okay. Forsberg recommended. Moving right along, District Court Judge Department I. We have Suni Sunny Bailey and Michelle Tobler. Frank.
Again, nothing on Michelle Tobler, not even a Ballopedia, anything. Sonny found some things on, though.
Let's hear it.
She's also got ties to that legal aid center that we just discussed about the racism and all that beautiful stuff back and forth about. Yeah, this is Suni Bailey. And she has been rejected twice by the Honorable Nevada Governor Brian Sandoval due to evidence that she is untrustworthy, lacks ethics, and is dishonest.
Oh.
Rejected twice. So you got ties to this, you've been rejected twice, and this is what I can find on you.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have to go with Michelle. Like, let's try something new that we don't know.
Let's open up for discussion. Robert?
So I've seen Sunny Bailey's commercials on TV, and they're totally misleading. All right?
How so?
Well, she comes out with Sunny Bailey, and then on the ballot she's He Bailey. I think she should be He Bailey all the way. I think she should be transparent and be open. And so that makes me suspicious of her. Tobler, is she part of the Tobler family here in Las Vegas? Who knows?
I do not believe so.
You don't know? You don't know. Okay. So the Tobler family is a pretty well-respected family. They've been here for years, and if she has any connection to the Tobler family, blood connection to her, I would probably lean towards her.
Okay. And just for full disclosure, Department I was the only family court department that we actually endorsed in the primary election, and we came out with Yvette Chevalier Lopez. Mm-hmm. But she never made the general. Jim, you got anything?
No, I'm not a fan of Suni Bailey's.
Okay. Robert?
I would not ever recommend her.
Yeah, and I reinforce that with what Jim stated, that I'm not a fan of her as well.
Giano?
No, I know we endorsed Chevalier, so I'm going to stick with that. I mean, we can't switch it anyways, so.
She's not in the race.
She didn't get passed.
Oh, she didn't get passed.
Yeah, so we
Oh,
gotta
wow.
go
Okay. So we have Michelle. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to recommend either one. I don't know too much about them, so I'm going to stay out of that one.
Let me see a show of hands for Suni Bailey. Okay, show of hands for Michelle Tobler. Okay. We're going to recommend Michelle Tobler. Before I say that, I forgot to talk about this race. I'm not too familiar with Michelle Tobler, but I remember Suni Bailey. I remember when she was going for the hearing master's position, and when you go for a position, the family court judges that are on a committee vote, and they unanimously voted for her. And at the time, Chuck Hoskins was the presiding judge. He went against the popular vote and decided to put his former law partner, to be the hearing master instead. That had less of a vote than Suni did, and it was Amy Maston who he put in. And he knew he screwed up because we did an article about it, and then he decided to put Suni back in the play and made her a hearing master. So that's what I have on that. And you guys went with Michelle Tobler. Michelle Tobler recommended. Okay, moving right along. We have Robert Madoff. He's going to discuss Family Court Judge Department J. Oh, this is the interesting one. This was the one we got rid of that awful witch, Rhonda Hughes. So now this is the one with D. Butler and Scott Mcdonald.
Thank you very much, Steve. Yeah, first of all, I'd like to offer my condolences to Sandy Pomerantz and Rhonda Hughes and Judge Moss. I thank God they are not going to be judges after January 1st. I just want to let you know. Yeah, I know. Oh, my God. Anyway, with Department J, D. Butler. Out of the 6 judges that I did my complete research on and background look, she's the only one does not have any sanctions against her, had any sanctions against her. She's been, her current job is she's the chief domestic violence unit. Her background is in family law.
We finally have a candidate that actually practiced family law?
Absolutely, and she's a damn good one as well. She's been a public defender. She's handled over 3,000 cases. As I mentioned before, she's never been cited for any judicial misconduct in the state of Nevada or anywhere else. And she's got 12 years of experience. And her reputation among other attorneys, family court attorneys, and other attorneys is excellent. Now, on the other side, we have a gentleman named J. Scott Mcdonald. On the surface, he looks clean cut. He passed the bar in 1985.
Kind of like Robert Fosberg.
Absolutely. He has some financial issues, a number of them, where he's been sanctioned for and sued for. To begin, the State Bar of Nevada, under Code SCR 158-1, Mr. McDonald entered into a short-term loan with one of his clients. He failed to repay that, and the client filed suit and was sanctioned by the Nevada State Bar. That's in 2001. 2007, 2008, he invested in a business, a fast food business, which failed within 9 months. He defaulted on the loan, which led to a personal bankruptcy, and he was sued. 2009, he filed for the aforementioned bankruptcy with the aforementioned restaurant and along with questionable real estate dealings. That was in 2009. So in the space of 8 years, he's been sanctioned twice and had 2 lawsuits against him. Then, 2013, McDonald was again a litigant. McDonald's was involved in a short sale where the funds from the office magically disappeared. And he was sued by the title company. I mean, just after reading everything, the research that I did on this gentleman, there's only one choice here, and that's D. Butler.
My God,
I would second. I would second that, and I would give McDonald 2 to 10.
Yeah. I was going to say, who's McDonald? Danny Tarkanian?
Actually, could I say a few words about D. Butler? I'm opposed to D. Butler, and because she discriminated against me, she actually blocked me on Facebook. And if you can believe
how is that
right?
discrimination?
Well, check it out, because the thing is that under the Code of Judicial Ethics, it's actually inappropriate to have differential treatment in a public forum, because everyone gets to, I can go there and say Trump sucks or Hillary sucks or whoever I think sucks.
But you can't be personally disrespectful to her, and you can't use profanity.
But actually I could. The thing is, it might not be inappropriate in some people, but the thing is, if I said, like, I don't know, the F word, or I don't know, the N word, or some word with the letter, then Facebook has the AI bots that could take down my comments. But for her to do it, I think is wrong, because all judges and judicial candidates are bound by the canons of ethics. And so in my mind, it's disparate treatment.
Okay, I get what you're saying about judicial candidates. I was going to tell you about with me. Before, I used to have a conversation with these a-holes when they call me stuff, And I thought about it. I'm like, this is a waste of my time. Why am I investing my time in responding to these lunatics for? So what I do, I just block them.
Right.
Just block them.
Well, I think
mean,
it's
if you
different.
was to come at me on my Facebook page, I'll just block you.
Well, let me say, I think, and for whatever's worth, I think that would be totally appropriate. You'd have the right to do that. But if you're a judge or you're an attorney who's a judicial candidate,
I got you.
You're bound by the judicial canons, and there has to be this sense of equality in treating everyone. Now, I wasn't actually saying anything disruptive. I mean, some people might think that there's arguably a right to do that, but I wasn't disruptive. I was just asking questions she didn't want to answer, and so she thought it would be okay to block me, and I think that's inappropriate, and I'm waiting for the big decision to come down in the case of me versus Ochoa, because I think this is one of the issues. Ochoa blocked me on Facebook, the judge in my family court case, and we're expecting a ruling any day now in federal court. But knowing that he couldn't block me, the same reasoning legally would apply to judicial candidates. So I think Dee Butler looks great on paper, and I'd be for her, but I have this personal thing with her. And
Because she blocked you.
Because she blocked me. I think it's discrimination. I think it's
Good luck
every
with that.
viewpoint counts. So,
Frank,
anyways.
Butler's got my vote.
Faust,
I'm going to go with that, Dee.
Amato.
Definitely Butler, but I got a couple things to say real quick. So one thing I wanted to say was, I'm very, happy with Rhonda Hughes, not, her definitely not being a judge in January, right? Because, my whole goal, our goal is to make sure that all these retaliatory judges, all these corrupt judges are put out there to the public and to the voters so everybody understands when you're biased, you're corrupt, we're going to put you out there. And if that ain't a warning for corrupt judges like Matthew Harder, for what's coming in the future, my life is now dedicated to making sure that piece of shit is not on that stand, is not on that bench. Here come, when's his next election? In, 2026? So I just wanted to say that, but no, definitely I'm going to go with Butler.
By the way, a lot of people have those strong feelings about Harder. I just wanted to second that.
And just for the record, there are 4 people on this panel that has personal, what's that word I'm looking for? No, interaction with the Clark County Family Court. So. Let me tell you my experience. Scott J. Mcdonald, last round table we had when we did the primary, for the primary election, we recommended him. And there's nothing that says that he has to stay recommended. Only endorsed candidates, we don't take endorsements away. But recommendations, if we find out something new, we could always change. Dee Butler, she's a very nice person. I met her at the State of the City address for North Las Vegas, and I met her a couple times court observing in family court. Very nice person. I think that she would be a very, very refreshing addition
Agreed.
to the district court bench as a whole. As a whole, BLM. As a whole. So you guys recommended Dee Butler, so that's who it's going to be. Dee Butler, we recommend for Department J. Moving right along.
Dee Butler, unblock me.
Dee Butler, just have a conversation with Matthew Phillips over there. Are you a resident of Nevada?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. Are you a registered voter?
No, I'm not.
Don't worry about Matthew Dee Butler. Don't worry about him. Just worry about us. We can vote. District Court Judge, Department M. The contest is Lynn Hughes and Amy Maston's. And Robert, you had that one as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Steve. Lynn Hughes, to clarify, is a gentleman to begin with. He has extensive experience. He's a family law attorney. He has been a family court settlement master. He's steady, not spectacular, and he hears out the litigants. He did have a letter of caution by the Nevada State Bar for contacting a former client who retained new counsel. That's the only blemish on his record. He's considered a good family court attorney, and with the person that he's running against, Amy Maston, this guy could be a mass murderer, and he would be the better choice. And I will back that up with a number of examples. Amy Maston, she's currently a Clark County hearing master. She passed the bar in 1994. Previously to that, she was a Clark County Family Violence Commissioner. Some of the quotes of her peer group, meaning the attorneys, and these are her good qualities. She is always angry and takes it out on the litigants. Her demeanor is an area she has a challenge with. Personally, and this is an attorney, witnessed her berating a woman in TPO court. She actually informed the woman that the woman that was requesting the TPO order, she should have investigated if the guy was going to hurt her or not. And plus, she doesn't have the experience. Now, here comes the crunch. I want the people out there to look at a case, and it's a Vietnamese couple, Foucault Dej / Udom. This was a case that appeared before the Clark County Family Violent Commissioner. The case took place for about a year prior to June 2016. The family, there was constant abuse, physical abuse, choking the 14-year-old, choking the 9-year-old by the father. And the mother had 2 or 3 TPOs against the father that were granted by other judges, and then finally it came in front of Amy Maston. Anyway, the end result, she denied the TPO, and on or about June, and I don't have the date, and I do apologize. It was possibly in the middle of June. Jason Dijacum, who's the father, he killed the mother in front of Walgreens, and then went to the mother's home where she had custody of the children, and he killed all 3 of the children, and then he committed suicide.
I read about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in the papers.
Yeah. So the thing is that Amy Maston should be nowhere near families because of that one case. Miss Maston, I just want to address you personally. You're responsible for 3 children's death, the mother's death, and the father committing suicide. If you would have granted that order or had insight into family issues and problems, you would have granted that TPO order and called for counseling of the father. This is an outrage that she's actually still sitting a Clark County hearing master. She should have been removed from the bench totally for a lifetime ban.
Robert, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the state of Nevada, strangulation is a felony, correct?
Yes.
Strangulation.
So he had 2 counts of strangulation, felony strangulations on minors.
Right.
And she still didn't grant a TPO?
No. This was after. On the strangulation, yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
he had committed 2 felonies against minors with strangulation, and the judge still didn't grant a TPO?
Yeah. The violence has been going back for years, since the kids were 5. Since the youngest one was 5, so it would have been about 4 years.
Now, I don't know either one of these judges, but I have to say from hearing what you have to say, 2 things. One, a TPO is just a piece of paper that doesn't protect anybody from anything. 2, Amy Maston sounds like she doesn't have the temperament or the ability to reason what she's doing on that bench. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to have to go with Lynn Hughes.
Yeah.
So, anybody else want to chime in on?
I just got one quick thing to say. Like he said, a TPO is a piece of paper.
Yes.
If you have the ability, get a weapon, get a CCW, Protect your own life. Don't leave it to these judges, because you see how neglectful they can be in cases that they do not understand. Yeah. They are not going through your life. They're not going through your horror. Protect your damn self and protect your kids.
So in other words, folks, if you have the ability to get yourself a weapon legally, and you have the ability to take the time out and get yourself a concealed weapons permit, and you have the ability to go and learn how to shoot that weapon and the safety functions of that weapon, go get a weapon and then go get a TPO.
That's exactly it. In this case, again, if Maston would have granted some form of therapy, and you're right, a TPO order is just a piece of paper. Absolutely, I agree with that 1,000%.
Incarceration works much better.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm for jails. I mean, I did 4 years. Mm-hmm. I did 4 years for drug smuggling, okay? Mm-hmm. I'm a drug smuggler. Marijuana, 750 pounds.
And you can say, folks, I am not surprised by it.
I don't blame you. But incarceration works, and there's people that belong in prison, and take it from somebody that's been in one for an extended amount of time, that there are people out there that you don't want out there on the streets.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Giano?
Yeah, let me say one thing. So talking about domestic violence and, where she could have easily signed a TPO, I guess it would have depended on what she had in front of her, right? And at the same time, she should have granted it, definitely, but it still wouldn't have kept her safe, because you got to remember, these people are going to plan these things out. They're going to make sure they know her entire life, especially if they're married for a prolonged period of time. They're going to plan it out. They're going to make sure, they get them when they're not expecting it. So, yeah, no, I definitely, I know what you're talking about in that situation.
Jim? Matt?
I'm good.
Okay, let me talk. Lynn Hughes, we recommended him last time in the last primary. Lynn Hughes has ran prior to this election cycle. The only problem I have with Lynn Hughes is that he's part of the Stoffel Roberts family law group. That's the only problem I have with Mr. Hughes. But Mr. Hughes, I don't hold it against you. I'm not the type that because you're friends with somebody else that I don't like, I'm going to hold it against you. I don't. I know you're trying to work, and that's the law firm that employed you. I get it. Amy Maston's, the only thing I have with Amy Maston's is that she wasn't, I don't think it was her fault, but Chuck Hoskins moved her up in the front of the line and skipped SUNY Bailey for the headmaster's position just because he was her former law partner. That's the only thing I have on those two. So, show of hands, who recommends Lynn Hughes? Okay, don't even need to go the other way. Lynn Hughes, you're recommended again, so you get an R+. Moving right along, we have Department U, Family Court Division, Department U.
Wait, why are we skipping Department S?
Because
Ochoa.
I'm the host
We're
here.
not doing Ochoa?
We're doing everybody. Don't interrupt. It's 7 o'clock.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Okay. We got Bill Gonzalez and Dawn Thorne, and the only reason why we're skipping is because Giano and Robert switched up a race because of conflict of interest. So, Robert, you had that one as well.
Yes, I did, sir. Thank you very much. William Gonzalez and Dawn Thorne. Where do I begin?
At the end.
At the end, that's possible.
I always say from the beginning.
From the beginning. Dawn Thorne.
Whenever I get a court order, the first thing I do is open it up and I go right to the order.
Yeah, I want to see the order. We don't want to know how you got there because you ain't going to change it.
We don't care how you made that decision.
Just tell me what
tell me
it
what's
is.
going on.
Am I going to get my attorney's fees or not?
Dawn Thorne, her major complaint by numerous litigants and some of her peer group is the civil disputes that she's having regarding her billing practices. To begin with, and I've spoken to actually 3 or 4 different litigants that have retained her over the years, she welcomes them. She says, don't worry about everything. I will look after everything. And on numerous occasions, she doesn't appear on their behalf in family court. It's basically the billing procedure that she overcharges. She actually, a number of years ago, back in 2014, if I remember correctly, she had one client that gave her a $5,000 retainer, and Don Thorne actually asked her to sign over her house and car if she doesn't make the other payments. And that's honest to goodness the truth. She actually, and I spoke to a litigant this afternoon, one of her clients, just recently actually, she phoned up, Don Thorne phoned up this client, this litigant, and said she wouldn't be able to be at court today. And she actually, on her billing statement of the billing statement, she actually charged her $175 for that one call. And which I did. I saw the invoice. I saw the invoice on that. Otherwise, when she is in court, she's a competent attorney. She has the respect of the judges, which is a scary thought. And basically, that's all I found on her. William Gonzalez is a definitely a different story. I know that he's had issues with the military. I'm not that familiar with him, and if anybody here wants to discuss that before I get into the major part, I would appreciate it.
No, go ahead. I'll chime in after you're done.
Thank you very much. Okay, William Gonzalez. Back in 2009, he handled the Phil Ivey, the poker player's divorce case. Ivey's lawyer was David Chesnoff. And prior to the case beginning, after the assignment, both Phil Ivey and David Chesnoff gave $5,000 each to William Gonzalez, which is in the limits. It's legal. There's nothing wrong with it. Now, I got wind of some information, and I actually spoke to Phil Ivey's ex-wife, new husband. His name is Chris Rich. Chris and I hope I'm pronouncing the ex-wife's name properly, Lusadia. They moved to Georgia, basically to get away from Las Vegas because of the conspiracy that was going against him between Bill Gonzalez and Ivey and Chesnoff. Chris Rich maintains, and he has a video because they hired two private detectives. This was a high-profile case back in 2009. And they had a detective follow Phil Ivey, and they had a detective follow William Gonzalez. And this is information that was passed on to me by Chris Rich, who married Ivey's ex-wife. They met at Bellagio for lunch, and there was a money transaction, a large money transaction that appeared during the trial. And Chris, I asked him if he has any video on it. He said yes. And I said, is it possible that I can have access to it? He says, no. He says, my wife and I just want to forget about everything because they got screwed over in his court, in Gonzalez's court. So the $5,000 each by Chesnoff and Ivey were legal, absolutely. A little bit inappropriate when you get assigned a judge and you donate $5,000 apiece to. And the money switch, as Mr. Rich calls it, occurred during the trial at Bellagio in one of the restaurants there. I forgot the name of the restaurants.
Did he use that money for his run, or did he take it and use it for personal expenses?
I have no idea.
And why didn't they follow the money?
I have no idea, sir. And basically, it came from the horse's mouth. And I spoke to Mr. Rich about a month ago. So I just have my major concerns about William Gonzalez for a number of reasons. One, for the military issues that he brought up, which I'm not that familiar with. But in this instance, these are factual, hard, cold evidence against Gonzalez. I think he's the type of individual, I don't know him, but I spoke to other attorneys that would probably take the money and run on a decision. That's my personal opinion. And Steve? Well,
I've known Bill Gonzalez when he was running for judge, and the first time, and became judge. We endorsed his candidacy, and then while he was on the bench, I don't know if he knows the Service Members Civil Relief Act, but the Service Members Civil Relief Act is an act. It's a federal act that says that any military veteran that's on orders out of the jurisdiction of the court must have a stay. That means they cannot move forward on the case because the veteran is not around to defend himself. There was one incident that I know of that the veteran was serving in Afghanistan, and while in war, this is wartime, and while the veteran was serving in Afghanistan, instead of William Gonzalez putting a stay on that one case for custody of children and relocation, he told the veteran's attorney that veteran better get on the phone and talk to him. And the attorney says, Your Honor, the veteran is in Afghanistan on orders, and there should be a stay. He's in combat. His unit is under fire. So William Gonzalez, who doesn't know a goddamn thing about the military, said that veteran better leave the area that he's under fire and go to an area that he's not under fire so he could pick up the phone and get on a conference call. This is some stupid shit. I mean, Gonzalez, somebody's shooting up your house, and you're going to go to the back door to go to the neighbor's house and go hang out with him. I mean, you're supposed to stay and protect your house, dude. It just doesn't make sense to me. There was another situation. Bill Gonzalez took away if my memory serves me correctly, took away the Veterans Service Connected Disability benefits, and substantially the veteran ended up committed suicide and couldn't see his kids. He took away the veterans' benefits and took away the veteran's right to see his kid, and the veteran ended up committing suicide. So those are just two incidents that Bill Gonzalez is in. And I've heard some other stuff that while he was running for re-election in the last election he was in, that he actually lost, by the way. The voters said, no more Bill Gonzalez. So they got rid of him 5 years ago. And here he comes back again. So he was trying to campaign from the bench. He was asking attorneys that was before his court if they were going to write his campaign a check. So based on that, I don't know about Bill Gonzalez too much. I thought I did know him. Matter of fact, there was a couple of attorneys was trying to get me to meet with Bill Gonzalez in this election for lunch, and instead we talked on the phone. And I thought that he would be more of a apologetic. And after I brought up these cases, he was not. Apparently, you would think that losing an election 5 years ago would make somebody humble. It has not. Folks, the guy's nice. He's a nice guy. You could talk to him. He's nice, mellow tone. He's sharp. He's nice. He doesn't look like he would hurt a fly. He reminds me of T. Matthew Phillips over here.
But Steve, does he dictate from the bench?
But you put a robe on that dude, that's a whole different story, okay? He's not very nice on the bench. He has black robe syndrome. He's full of himself. He thinks his shit doesn't stink. He's no friend to veterans. Once again, Bill Gonzalez is no friend to veterans based on his history while he was a judge on the bench. And remember, voters, we said no to him 5 years ago. We said no to him for a reason. If you say no to somebody, what are you going to put him back again for? He's gone. Let him be gone. Dawn Throne, the only thing that scares me about, although we did recommend Dawn Throne in the primary, The only thing that scares me about Dawn Throne is that she's friends with Rena Hughes. That's it. And I'm not going to hold it against her for being friends with Rena Hughes. I mean, you never know why she's friends with Rena Hughes, but that's between her and Rena Hughes. So that's all I know about those two particular candidates.
Well, that would be my question. One just basically told you that they illegally dictate law from the bench and try to force veterans to do something that's completely impossible and they can't do. The other one knows somebody you don't like.
I'll go with the one that knows somebody I don't like.
There we go.
Anybody else?
In this race, you have basically two people that have larceny in their heart. And once you have larceny in your heart, it's there forever. It can't be gone. And these people are just going to keep dinking and dunking and taking little bits of money and this and that, but they're not giving you what you deserve. Justice. Fair justice.
Anybody else?
I wouldn't vote for either one of them.
Yeah, so the thing about it is, growing up, a lot of my buddies we grew up together with, we all thought alike, right? So if she's friends with Rena Hughes, who's to say that Dawn Throne doesn't think like that? So I'm definitely not going to recommend either one of them. You can't think about it. Gonzalez is somebody's under fire and he's telling them to get somewhere where you could take a phone call from the court. That's bullshit. I'm not for it. So, I'm not for neither one of these two.
Actually, I'm opposed to both of them, actually. And I want to tell you why. As I've been working with the Brownstone people and running the numbers on the C&E reports, and I would urge everybody to go to the Secretary of State website and look at the campaign and expense reports, and it's all about the deep throat doctrine. Follow the money. And when you follow the money, it's kind of interesting. For example, Bill Gonzalez gave $27,000 to Letizia, the Letizia agency. Like, for what? What does $27,000 buy? I would love to know. I'd like to ask Mr. Gonzalez.
And that's pretty low, by the way.
It is very low, yes. It's only a primary, but still, what does that money go for? Because remember, these are not political races. They're not partisan. There's no R&D. So it's not like they need a campaign strategy. Here's a stump speech. Here's how you should feel about the border wall or something like that. So what are they spending? And Dawn Throne, $58,000 to policy communications, $58,000 in a primary. Now I can understand spending $2,500 at PDQ printing, getting signs and getting business cards and stuff. But why is there $58,000? Now policy communications is of course David V. Thomas. So I'd like to ask David V. Thomas, show us the receipts. We want to see what you're doing for these people for these exorbitant sums of money. Because to me, I wonder, are they buying influence? Now, see, what's interesting, these two candidates both were there on day one. When you go sign up for judge, there's a 10-day cycle. They can start on Monday, January 6th, all the way through Friday, January 17th, and I've been following these folks. Well, Dawn Thorne and Bill Gonzalez are both there on day one with bells on, okay? On January 6th, day one in the 10-day cycle. Now, on day 10, a third horse enters the race. Why is a third horse entering the race against two? Now your odds are 3-1, basically. Why doesn't that person, run against, a Duckworth and have even odds, But you have to wonder if that third person is there to spoil somebody else or be a blocker, type of thing. They have names for these people, and I want to know.
Oh, you read the Veterans in Politics last article.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And that's the thing. It makes you really wonder, why is this person entering on day 17, and then January 17th, which is day 10 in the cycle? I would like to ask, it makes me wonder, did one of these people give money to Letizia or give money to David V. Thomas, and they go exercise their influence, and then next thing you know, someone's out of the race? How does that happen? It's curious. I think we need more answers.
We got to move this along.
It could be just plain old kickbacks.
It may well be. Who knows? That's what we want to know.
Jim?
Dawn Thorne, and he's raising money because it doesn't matter if it's a nonpartisan race. This is why judges shouldn't fucking be elected to begin with.
Frank?
I'm going to second that.
Okay, show of hands for Bill Gonzalez.
I got one.
Okay. Dawn Thorne, you're recommended again by the veterans in politics in the primary and in the general. So moving right along. Oh, wow. Robert, you got P too?
No,
Giano has P. So,
I'm gonna lay down, man. Robert's got it all.
so family court. Robert's very thorough.
Oh yeah, Robert's the man.
Family court judge, Department P. That's Sarah Dayani and Mary Perry. This is the seat that was held. This is the seat that was held by Sandra Pomerantz, by the way. Gianno?
Okay, so we got Dayani and Perry. So one thing I'm definitely against. Okay, it's against corrupt, biased, and retaliatory judges. So Perry, a while back, she mentioned something on Facebook that any woman that makes up a domestic violence against her husband or her significant other is lying, which we know, I mean, definitely that wasn't true with that case you were just referring to, with the husband killing her his three children and the wife. So, I mean, it definitely happens. Do a lot of females make it up? Absolutely. You know, I've went through the exact same thing on where basically one of my kids' mothers throws 1,000 different things at the wall, right? And if the judge doesn't like you, he basically he says, okay, listen, he gives them everything. It don't matter if they just came back after 4 years of a drug binge, you know, shooting up and you know, shit like that. So, I mean, I'm definitely against, you know, any type of candidate that don't think that domestic violence doesn't exist, because then, I mean, anybody that goes in front of her, automatically you're a liar, right? When you go in front of her, a lot of women are liars, you know. A lot of men can lie, you know, but so it depends on the evidence. What evidence is there, okay? So now let's talk about Sarah Dayani, okay? She's worked with the family courts for the last 12 years, worked on thousands of cases, divorce, custody, annulment, adoptions, was a member of the Truancy Summit Committee, helped re-implement the Project SOAR, worked in the presiding judge's office for 3 years, senior judge settlement program, and court administrations. I just think that, you know, I don't think that we should have, you know, a judge like Perry in there, and I would definitely recommend Dayani over Perry, because Perry seems to be very, what's the word I'm looking for? Biased, corrupt, disingenuous. So definitely Dayani.
Okay, well, let me put my 2 cents before we.
Because I know this is going to be long.
You going somewhere?
No. I just want to talk before you. If you don't mind, Mr. President.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Mr. San Diego.
Okay, so just real quick about Mary Perry as far as being biased. Steve and I know of a horrific incident with her, and if Steve wants to get into that, he can get into it. I wanted to, and I find it offensive, I consider that person a friend as well. But what I wanted to touch on real quick was I'm really good friends with the young woman that used to be the assistant manager for the Texas Cafe. Now, anybody that knows about the Texas Cafe, because it's a cafe, they don't allow reservations. Well, Mary Perry, every Monday, has a meeting there. 10 o'clock if anyone wants to go talk to Mary Perry. And so basically, there'll be, if there's a group of people sitting at a booth having their meal, she will ask that those people be removed from that booth and moved to another spot because Mary Perry and all male people that meet with her every single Monday, they like that booth. And do you know who I am? And that's specifically how she addresses everybody that she talks to at the Texas Cafe. Now, if it's not bad enough that it's not their fault that the Texas Cafe doesn't allow reservations, she asks them every time, do you know who I am? If a person is an attorney and is that arrogant, what do you think they're going to be like when they put a robe on?
Exactly. So, anyways, Department P, Sarah Dayani, I really don't know much about. I'd like to know more about you, Sarah. But Mary Perry, on the other hand, Mary Perry made comments on Facebook. I had a young lady with showing her neck. She was choked out to unconsciousness, and there were bruises on her neck, and there were scratch marks on her neck. And I posted it on Facebook because that was the right thing to do, because this one person worked for the Clark County School District. And Mary Perry chimed in and said that the wounds were self-inflicted. Self-inflicted. Choke mark wounds, bruises of thumb prints on your neck and scratches. It was self-inflicted. Now, she based that off of what? Absolutely nothing. She just based that off of her own personal bias. Now, Mary Perry will tell you that she too was also a victim of domestic violence. And my rebuttal to that would be Mary Perry has Stockholm Syndrome. So Mary Perry is not to be trusted on the bench. She's arrogant. She's a narcissist. She wants power somewhere, somehow. She has run for district court judge once before and lost. And she went and run for the U.S. House of Congress, and she also lost that. Mary Perry should not be on the bench. If you guys put Mary, look, guys, I'm not going to be in family court, okay? So I don't have to worry about being in front of Mary Perry. And even if I was going to be in family court, believe me, Mary Perry or my counsel would recuse her from my case. So I'm not going to have her anyway. So one of you people out there is going to have Mary Perry. And if you vote for her, you get exactly what you deserve. Now, you know who I think Mary Perry reminds me of? Rhonda Hughes. That's exactly what you're going to get. You're probably going to get it worse because Mary Perry is a little bit bigger than Rhonda Hughes. So you're probably going to get it worse. And Mary Perry will come down on you. She's very arrogant. She's a very mean, revengeful person. That's what you're going to get. So by all means, vote for her. Vote for her. Because what? She's your friend? Because she's your colleague? Because you're going to get something from her? Those are your only reasons why you would vote for her. You wouldn't vote for her because she's a nice person. You wouldn't vote for her because she's going to be fair, just on the bench. You wouldn't vote for her because she's going to be a person that's on the bench that's going to be the betterment of her community. No. So if you vote for her, good luck to you. And that's all I got to say about that. What else about that?
Can I chime in on the whole Mary Perry, Sada Dayani matter?
Sure.
I actually been, like I said, I've been looking at the C&E reports. Again, go to the Secretary of State's website, look at the contribution and expenses. In looking at Sada Dayani, it's my opinion she's a legit candidate. I actually endorse her. I think she would be terrific, and so she gets 2 thumbs up if I could put both of them up here.
You voting for somebody else?
I would endorse her. Sada Dayani is now the thing that's in, before we talk about Mary Perry, I want to talk about the third horse, and we all know who the third horse in the Department P race was, right?
Who?
The world famous Fred C. Page.
Okay. Well, he's not on this ballot.
But here's what's interesting. What I want to know is why was Fred C. Page in the race, but didn't spend no money, didn't get any contributions, not even himself. He didn't even put any money in on his own joint, you know.
Tell us why.
Nobody, I mean, this is the $1 million
Why is
question.
Fred C. Page in the race?
Why, but that's the question. I want to know, why would someone enter the race and raise no funds and spend no money unless they're there as a spoiler or a blocker trying to water down someone else's votes? I don't think, frankly, I don't think that Sada Dayani has the capacity to do something, you know, anything that would be rigging-wise. But I suspect that that would be Mary Perry, has it written all over. I actually had an argument with her on Facebook. She was injured by vaccines, like legitimately. I don't know. She didn't. Actually, she didn't. She may know I'm going to sue her if she does. But no, she had said she was legitimately vaccine injured and documented it. But then I said, so you're an anti-vaxxer, right? And she immediately backpedaled and didn't want to talk about it.
Mary Perry will tell you
Anything
what you want to hear
yes,
to get your vote.
Yes, and
She's
I
an
think
opportunist.
She is, and I think that's the biggest sign of insincerity, is saying whatever they think they need to say. But still, why is Fred C. Page not spending any money?
He's not spending any more money now. He's out the race.
No, and I understand, but it's still we see this in so many of these races where attorneys are not trying to win, and they should be zealously advocating and trying to win, and like you're in that cage to win. You know what I mean? But I don't know. It makes me think that maybe there was something going on with her and Mary Perry where she thinks that, you know, him in the race will somehow help her against Sada Dayani. I don't know, but these are questions I think we need to ask. And so,
anybody else got anything?
That's my 2 cents.
You know, it's crazy that you talk about Page, because I remember during the elections, or what was that, around January 15th, you know, I was calling a lot of the candidates and I was trying to get them to switch seats, and we're guaranteeing, right? And I am guaranteeing, you know, that anybody that ran up against, we're trying to get them to switch departments. And I was guaranteeing if they ran against Harder, we would have made sure they won. And I called, and I remember calling Page, and it does kind of seem weird now that you say that, because, I mean, the conversation that I had with him, he didn't take it too serious, and so maybe I believe that Perry did have, you know, she threw him in there to kind of help her out. So, yeah, it makes sense now.
I could totally see them doing that. And I'd want to say just real quick, I know we're pressed for time here, but
Very pressed.
But the Code of Fair Campaign Practices Act, there's a law in Nevada called Code of Fair Campaign Practices, NRS 294A.290, and it says that all candidates are supposed to try. They're supposed to try to win. Everybody in the race is supposed to be, you know, diligently.
Yeah, I tried to win. I put my name on the ballot.
So let's get to it.
The actual, let me say real quick, the words, though, honestly, the words say that they're supposed to be, they're supposed to actually vigorously contest every race. The law requires them to vigorously contest. And
Depends on whose version of vigorously contestant. My vigorously contestant would be, I'll go whatever. Your vigorously contestant would be like, I'll just do this.
Yeah.
Which is not much.
It's not vigorously. I think those there's big questions whether they violate the law in doing that. So that's my
So,
take.
anybody else? No. Okay. Show of hands, Mary Perry. Show of hands, Sarah Dayani. All right, Sarah Dayani's recommended.
Let's all meet Monday at the cafe.
Yeah. No, seriously, it would
About 10:40, about 9:45.
9:45. And let's take that booth.
That's right. That's exactly what I'm talking
We ain't moving.
I
Come move us, Mary.
ain't moving.
All right. You know who I am? You see who we are? All right. Moving right ahead. District Court Judge, Division, Department T. And again, that's with Gianno Amato. We're going to have Nadine Cutter and Jason Stoffel. And just to let the viewers and listeners know, the primary election, we recommended Nadine Cutter. Go ahead, Gianno.
Okay, so I definitely want to talk about Stoffel. Now, he looked good on paper, right? So I'm looking up, you know, a bunch of things on him. He was, you know, practicing law at trials and some client mediation, alternative dispute resolutions, delegated legal tasks for paralegals, supervise them to better serve the firms. I mean, it goes on and on. Now, my issue was a few years back, he got involved with the Willick Law Firm. You recently won a Supreme Court case with them. and against them. Now, also, he's backed by the Nevada Corrupt Watchers, right? Now, anybody that's going to be corrupt, automatically is backed by them, right? So if you're a corrupt judge, you automatically call them, whatever you do. I have an issue with corrupt judges. I just recently won a Supreme Court case, order reversal and remand in the Supreme Court with Judge Matthew Harder. Bravo. Thanks. I got another case with him coming up in the Supreme Court. So actually I won in the Court of Appeals. It got kicked down. I won in the Court of Appeals. Now, my problem is here, okay? If you're involved with Nevada Corrupt Watchers, okay, you're automatically corrupt. If you're involved with the Willick Law Group, what's going to happen, right? So if one of their lawyers, they're trying to push him in there, they're trying to make sure that basically if they have a client, they're going to win the case as long as, they get him in there. I'm definitely against corruptness. So, Jason Stoffel is definitely out. Then we got Nadine Cutter. Now, Nadine Cutter seems like a way better candidate. I didn't find nothing, negative on her. She don't seem to be, biased, corrupt, retaliatory. Not saying that I found retaliatory things yet on Stoffel, but if he's involved with the Nevada Corrupt Watchers, he is going to do some corrupt shit, right? So everybody needs to know, stay the hell away from Jason Stoffel. And another thing, okay? I'm still in court. I'm still in Department N. Hopefully I'll be getting him Judge Harder disqualified. Do I care? No, I don't care, right? So that's why, I come in here and I state my case. Do I care if I go back to Harder? Yes and no. Apparently I don't, because I talk a lot of shit in here, but I talk real shit, right? Everybody's going to know my entire case. When the time is right, I could guarantee you, okay, legally, Harder will not be on that bench come 2026.
Hallelujah. Who took my mic? I got to tell him.
Anyways.
Stay on the two topics.
Okay, so anyways, I'm going to go with Nadine Cutter, hell with Stoffel.
So, my experience, I've known Nadine Cutter for a few years. I remember she co-hosted with me on the Eye of Nevada Politics on KLAV at one time. She seems like a fine attorney. She seems very knowledgeable, and she seems very pleasant to be around. As far as Jason Stoffel, I once thought Jason Stoffel was a friend, and he used to go to all the MMA fights with the Real Water and was around veterans in politics. And when he was running against Vincent Ochoa in the last election, we didn't endorse either one of them, but at the end we helped support Jason Stoffel. Behind the scenes, Jason used to provide us with evidence to go after Vincent Ochoa, police reports on Ochoa's son robbing a balloon store at Knife Point and getting $68 because Ochoa's son apparently was on heroin or some type of drugs, and that's what happens when you're on drugs. And Stoffel really wanted to win, so he was giving us all kinds of information to go after Vincent Ochoa. Ironically, Stoffel lost, and he walked over to the dark side with the Willick Law Group and the Abrams and Mayo law firm, thinking that he was going to get something better, I guess. And right after he walked over on that side, all of a sudden he is the president of the Clark County Bar Association, and therefore used his power to keep veterans in politics and his members out of the meet your district court judges. Veterans in politics or his members never was involved in any type of incident. In the years, and I would say probably about 5 years we've been going to meet your judges, never once an incident, but Jason Stoffel used his power to just ban us from going to meet your judges because he doesn't fucking like us. And that's a damn shame. Jason Stoffel was on the Review Journal and made a comment that he doesn't like us. Why? Jason Stoffel never once picked up the phone and called me. He's never met me for lunch. He's never done anything to try to communicate. So Jason Stoffel, right off the bat, is a bad communicator. Okay? Now, he's trying to become a judge. As you can see on everybody's website that are married, children, Jason Stoffel does not have any children. Okay? And how could you, in good conscience, decide the welfare of people with children, citizens, voters with children that come before your court when you really don't have that personal involvement? You don't have that. He doesn't have any foster children. He doesn't have any adopted children. He doesn't have any biological children. I doubt if he has nieces and nephews over, but he doesn't have any children. Okay, so how is he going to judge us on children? How is he going to judge you on what's better for your child if he doesn't personally have an experience? Is he going to get it out of a textbook? Is he going to get it out of somebody else's experience and be a third party? How is he going to get that experience if he doesn't have one himself? Now, as far as his wife is concerned, his wife is Amanda Roberts. He doesn't mention his wife on any of his websites. Doesn't mention, this guy's running for family court judge. I could probably understand if you're running for assembly, state senate, public administrator, but he's running for family, big thing, family court judge. He doesn't mention his wife, Amanda Roberts, on his website. Why is that? But he mentioned, Amanda doesn't even have his last name. Her name is Amanda Roberts. His name is Jason Stoffel. And then they got a firm called Roberts and Stoffel, or Stoffel and Roberts, whichever direction it goes. But he doesn't once mention that she is his wife. Is he not proud of her? Does he not respect her? There's something going on with that. Jason Stoffel should not be on the bench. Jason Stoffel is an opportunist. Jason Stoffel is a liar. Jason Stoffel is a Judas. Jason Stoffel will stab you in the back to get what he wants. He's that damn of an opportunist. And he's going to try everything to get on this bench, whether to lie, discredit Nadine Cutter, whatever it takes. He's going to try to do it because he's a piece of shit. And that's how pieces of shits go. Anybody got anything?
Well, Steve, I was just going to ask you. So while he was running against another judge, he actively fed you information and police reports on that judge he was running against.
Absolutely.
That should tell you everything you need to know about his moral code.
Well, I'd just like to add something about Mr. Stoffel's moral code. Las Vegas is a small city. I mean, it really is. There was a gentleman, when I started up the ice hockey program 25, 30 years ago as a volunteer, the gentleman's name was Russell Zitch. And basically his son passed away when he was 14 or 15 years old. And during that time, Mr. Zitch and his wife were going through a separation, a divorce. Russell Zitch retained Jason Stoffel. And I do believe that Mr. Zitch was on Mr. Sanson's and Mr. Jonas's show a couple months ago. Basically, he told that story, but the moral integrity of Mr. Stoffel is incredible in the negative, because Mr. Zitch was going through a divorce, plus he was extremely close with his son, great kid, by the way. And the bottom line is here, he stuck him in every way possible. Financially, stuck him for a number of thousands of dollars. He didn't properly represent Mr. Zitch in any way, shape, or form. There was supposed to be an IRA split down the middle that Stoffel forgot about, and it wasn't put into the final decree. And I actually spoke to Mr. Stoffel a few times about him appearing on the show, and he started giving me groundwork. Well, we're going to have a moderator, we're going to have this, we're going to have this. And I said, Mr. Stoffel, if you have nothing to hide, come on Mr. Sanson's and Mr. Jonas's show. Simple as that. And obviously he has not come on your show as of yet. But for his moral character, what he did to Mr. Zitch, and it's somewhat personal to me, he screwed Mr. Zitch over in every way but loose.
It was malpractice what he did.
Yeah, malpractice, absolutely. But anyway, I wouldn't vote for Jason Stoffel in any way, shape, or form.
Anybody else?
Big no on Jason Stoffel merely because of his connections with all the degenerates that are involved with the Nevada court watchers. Yeah, corrupt watchers.
Corrupt watchers.
Big no.
Family court is probably, the family court in Las Vegas is probably one of the most corrupt courts in the nation. And this is a big part of it. And it goes to ex parte hearings, too. I represented my brother-in-law in a divorce hearing. I'm not a lawyer, but I represented him anyway. And there was no children, there was no property, there was no real
They
property.
allowed you to do that?
They didn't know.
Huh? Oh.
So at any rate,
Oh, you ghostwrited?
yes.
Oh, okay.
And I had him sign it.
Okay.
Okay, so I represented him, but he represented himself. But Gail Nathan and another lawyer here in town who has ex parte with her that I can't think of his name right now, were meeting constantly. Constantly they were meeting. He submitted a collection bill to her for $50,000. He didn't have one receipt. This woman abandoned her marriage. She took everything but the guy's cat and his toothbrush and left it, threw all of his clothes in the trash. And she awarded that $50,000 without ever seeing a receipt or without ever listening to
Are you talking about Gail Nathan?
Yeah, she's off the bench now.
Oh.
But it comes to ex parte in that court, and that is a big problem in the family court, is the ex parte where the lawyers meet with the judge one-on-one and they do their deal.
All right. Show of hands, Jason Stoffel. Okay, Nadine Cutter. Yes. All right, Nadine Cutter was also recommended in the primary, and she's recommended again in the general election. Moving right along, Family Court Judge, Division, Department W, which is a brand new seat, was one of the 6 seats that was added on by the legislative session. So instead of having 20 family court seats, we're going to have 26 family court seats starting in 2021. So Department W, that's the one with,
Steve, will they all actually be working, or will they take many days off as possible?
Well,
like
we're
the other
going to
ones?
make sure that they work when we court observe with a little mask on and social distancing.
Still can't go to the courthouses.
True. We have Michelle, what's that last name on that? Rochelet. Oh, and Adriana Rincon. And I believe Giano,
Yeah, I got it.
you have this one as well, right?
Yep. Okay, so Department W, I like Rochelet. The reason is, okay, she was interviewed by First Media, America First Media, and I want to say this is, I think, April 7th, and she said she believes that CPS is in a need of reform. And just to talk about CPS for a second, right? CPS, the thing about CPS everybody has to know is, you got these people that go to school for, what is it, a few months, 6 months, 7 months, whatever it is, then they come out and they say, hey, listen, basically whoever they side with, whoever they like, they're going to say, okay, we're going to substantiate that, we're going to unsubstantiate that, right? So it's like having a bunch of 10-year-olds in there picking and choosing what they're going to substantiate and unsubstantiate. The thing with CPS is, if something is more than 50% believable, they automatically substantiate it, especially if they don't like you. CPS is bullshit. We will definitely also be putting CPS out there soon. We're going to make sure to put All the caseworkers out there that do corrupt shit, we're going to make sure to put them out there. I like that she, believes that they need a reform. Hopefully that's why. But I believe there's, you can't just have a bunch of people go to school for a couple months and all of a sudden start judging children, start judging families. It shouldn't happen, and we need to make sure that everybody knows how the CPS here in Nevada is working. She also talks, if elected, she wants to award attorney fees.
Who are we still talking about?
We're talking about Rochelle. So she also talks about if she's elected, she wants to award attorney fees for frivolous cases, right? The thing about it is, like, I'm involved in a frivolous case. I've been involved since 2012. Zilch. There is absolutely no evidence. And it's still, I'm still fighting. I'm all the way in the Supreme Court, and I'm winning like hell, right? So I'm definitely going to go with Rochelle over Adriana Rincon, I believe.
God bless you. I didn't hear anything about Rincon.
Now this is the thing about Rochelle is she has a lot more experience, okay? She has 19 years over... I wasn't able to see. I know that Adriana was appointed to hearing master back in, I believe, 2014, and then in January 2018, she was appointed as a juvenile dependency hearing master. I just believe that Rochelle definitely has a lot more experience, and I would like to be. I'd rather be. Being a parent, I would rather be in front of Rochelle than Rincon.
Still didn't hear anything about Rincon.
Well, that's the problem. There wasn't too much I could find about her. I looked up, I was only able to pull up one paper about her, so I wasn't able to find too much. Let's see, it says, in 2008, she switched gears and left real estate to begin her career as an attorney. So she's only been an attorney for maximum 12 years compared to 19 years from Rochelle.
Well, they said that she began her career. Did she go to, was she in law school at that time? Did she take the bar at that time?
So Adriana began her work in the courts years ago while still practicing law full-time. First, she was appointed judge in the district court's truancy diversion program, where she worked with students who had excessive absenteeism at Cheyenne High School, Fremont Middle School, and Cram Middle School. Then in 2014, Adriana was appointed to pro tem hearing master in child support court, a position she held for 4 years prior to her full-time appointment to the bench. So basically, I want to say maybe it was in 2014, maybe is when she started practicing law.
All right, well, in this department, I really don't know none of these candidates. Anybody?
I would go for the person with the least amount of experience in these family court cases, because family court has been such a corrupt cesspool for the last 10 years that what are you going to lose if you vote somebody new in?
Well,
drain the swamp.
Well,
drain the swamp.
We voted in Sandra Pomeranz, who had no family court experience, and look what we got.
So you're going to get a bad one, and then you vote them out. But you don't keep voting the same one in over and over when you know they're bad.
We voted in Linda Marquis, no family court experience, and look what we got. Yeah. So I would say that we should start having people that are knowledgeable in family court.
What we should have is term limits of 2 years.
And none of these two candidates, Michelle, what's that name? Rochelle or Adriana Rincon has been elected to the bench before, so we really don't know. So who'd you recommend?
Rochelle.
You recommend Rochelle?
Well, she has the most experience, so she's been around the longest, but that doesn't mean that the other girl isn't just as good.
True.
Now, it doesn't, right? But at the same time, if she's already believing that CPS needs a reform, I mean, you can't just go off one statement. I agree, right? But at the same time, I believe that she's automatically coming in with the thought of reforming something.
You got to do something and that's exactly what we need is reformers and repealers. Repeal some of these laws. Get some reformers in there. Reform some of this corruption out of the court. Yeah. That's exactly what you need.
Definitely.
I've got a question for you. You're talking about Adrienne Rincon.
Yeah.
She was appointed, and I apologize if this is a repeat. She was appointed as a hearing master in dependency court in 2018 by Linda Bell, Chief Judge Linda Bell.
Yeah, then in 2014 she was appointed to pro term hearing master in child support court, and in 2018 she was appointed by Linda Bell for, I believe, the juvenile dependency hearing master.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
So basically, it's looking like we got 18 years experience, a couple years experience, 18 years of saying reform CPS. If they at least have a statement out there about what they want to do, and the other one you have nothing on.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so Michelle
Rouchelet.
Rouchelet. It sounds French.
It is French.
It's French?
Yeah, Rouchelet.
Who are we recommending her?
I want to say one thing before we recommend. CPS in this town is responsible for a lot of children's deaths.
Agreed.
So in other words, you're saying it needs reforming.
Boy, howdy.
I think the whole family court system needs reforming.
Yeah.
I think they just need to implode the whole system and start from fresh.
Start all over again.
Bulldozer.
So Rochelet?
So is it going to be show of hands for Rouchelet? All right. Well, don't even have to go to Recon.
Yeah.
Although I do like that name, Recon. All right. Moving right along. So Michelle Rouchelet recommended. So District Court Judge, another seat, new seat, Department X. Heidi Amassi and Jim Davis. Is that Jim Davis?
James Davis.
Davis? I can't see those small printers.
Jim Davis, yeah.
You know, I should start wearing my glasses. So, Matthew Phillips, you got this one.
Well, again, my first concern here was to go to the contribution and expense reports at the Secretary of State.
You're like, show me the money.
Show me the money, follow the money, however you're going to say it. But this is what I'm looking for, things that are interesting. Are they expending exorbitant sums of money in one area? Are they, is there campaigning? Are they drip feeding money in terms of contributions? You know, how are they financing things? I'm looking for things that stand out. Well, on this one with Heidi Amassi, if I'm saying that right, she loaned herself $15,000 to her own campaign. And presumably, now I don't know this, but you got to wonder why they're loaning money to their own campaign. It's almost like she's putting $15,000 in on this joint, right?
Well, what happens, if you don't mind me interrupting.
Oh, please.
What happens is they loan money to their campaign because once they win, they have a forgive the death party, and then they could take that money back out of the campaign and put it to their personal, which many politicians have done that.
I see, but it kind of makes me wonder when they're doing that. It's like they're giving themselves money on spec, so to speak, and then they want to get paid back on the back end of the deal. And it seems almost unfair to their supporters, the people that are putting hard money down that aren't getting it back, but the candidate is wanting to get money back from their own self. It seems there's that old betting adage that says you can't bet too much money on a winning horse. You know, and so they must think that they're going to win. They must want to win. Why are they loaning themselves money unless they want to get money back on the back end of the deal? But I guess it's really not that, atypical, because they all do it. But what's interesting is if you look at Jim Davis, he loaned himself $22,000, a little over $22,000, but it's the way he did it that was interesting. He actually drip fed the loans to his own campaign. Now, what do I mean by drip feed? Well, he gave himself 16 loans in 25 days. So over a 25-day period, he loaned himself $22,000 in 16 installments. Now, why the hell would somebody do that? You know, the point is, it raises an inference, at least in my way of thinking, that maybe somebody is giving them money to launder money on the way into the campaign. Now,
so if correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying that let's say Robert Foss over there gave me 15 grand. Mm-hmm. Okay, so he gave me 15 grand to me, probably gave it to me in cash, and then I'm putting it in my campaign. So on paper it says that I'm loaning that money in hopes that I get it back, and then probably I just give it back to Robert Foss after he loaned it to me.
Well,
something like that is
well,
basically what you're
the
trying
loan.
to say?
Well, what I'm raising the question is, why do they drip feed the loan? The point is, if he wants to loan himself 22 large, just put in $22,000. But remember, there are limits on what you can contribute. $5,000 in the primary, for example, and let's say that a big donor wanted to give more than $5,000. They can. It's illegal. But the candidate themselves can spend as much money as they want. So if I'm a big donor, I'm going to give it to you in small chunks, and then you put it in. I guess I think no one's going to notice it if it's in small amounts.
Sounds
or something.
like racketeering and conspiracy to me.
It just raises questions. I want to know. Here's the thing. Like with Ochoa, I don't want to bring up Ochoa, but why not? Let's bring up Ochoa and talk about this. He had loaned himself, a certain amount of money, but more than that. He put in all this money of his own, and he's drip feeding his campaign, putting money in increments. He made like 25 installments over, I'm not sure how many, but a short period of time. Now, why would somebody put down, I think it was $135,000 he spent on his own money on the primary? Because the job only pays like what, $180,000 in salary? Why would you spend, but here's my point. If somebody wants to spend $135,000 on their own campaign, it's a free country. But here's my question. Why do they drip feed that money? $5,022 one day, $6,139 2 days later, $411.39 the next
We
day.
get the picture.
It's torturous.
Mr. Phillips, besides the C&E report,
Yes.
tell us about these two individuals.
Well, only thing I can really tell is that Heidi Amassi paid $20,000 to Letizia, and Jim Davis paid $11,000 to Policy Communications, which of course is David V. Thomas. So I'm wondering, I just want to know, what are they getting for
Mr.
that
Phillips,
services?
you're back with money again.
I'm back with money.
Tell us about the candidates besides money. Tell us about them. Tell us about their track record. Heidi Amassi's been on the bench for a few years. Tell us about her.
There's nothing I could find that was really remarkable other than the whole money aspect. I mean, really, for me, that's
so I'm going to have to fill in for you then, basically.
That's my yes. I'm just concerned about the money. I'm just enamored with this concept. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, with Heidi, she's been in the actually nationwide news back in June 7th in 2017, where she took a picture of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and indicated that he was supporting her. And basically she was sanctioned by the Nevada Commission of Judicial Discipline. They actually did something? Yes. Oh my God. Anyway, that was a major controversy back in 2017. And again, she was sanctioned by the Discipline Committee, but
Heidi Amassi, I know her when she was an attorney running for municipal court seat against, what's his name? George Assad for the municipal court bench. And she beat him, although Assad had problems back then. His son, Robin de Bellagio, and there was internal problems with him and Cedric Kearns on the bench. And apparently what was told is that Cedric Kearns put Heidi Amassi in the race to run against George Assad. So Heidi Amassi was trying to run for re-election, and she got screwed over by Policy Communication, Dave Thomas, because Dave Thomas wanted $35,000 and to continue her campaign, and Heidi Amassi just didn't have it. So she went with Jennifer Barrier, and that's when the whole rock picture came up. But I think Heidi Amassi is a good judge. As far as what I saw on when she was in municipal court, she was fair. She has a track record of being a good judge. I know nothing about Jim Davis, and Matthew Phillips hasn't put anything on the table about Jim Davis other than he gave $12,000 to Tom Letitia. So, with all that said,
Amassi's somebody who can't make her own decision. She's owned by somebody.
Everybody's owned by somebody.
Everybody's not owned by somebody.
Everybody's owned by somebody.
I'm not owned by anybody.
Your wife owns your ass.
I don't have a wife. Now then, with that said and done, Heidi Amassi is no different than, what's his name, Stoffel. She has connections. She gets money. She gets the seat.
I wouldn't put Heidi Amassi and Stoffel in the same category because I got personal experience with both.
Yeah, I know, but it's close. She's at a lower level. She's at a lower level of corruption than he is, but she's still corrupt.
I wouldn't even say that either.
Yeah, I would say I'm going to vote for James Davis, and we don't know anything about him, and that's good.
Hold on. Hey, Robert, you got something about Davis?
Yeah,
You know they got an old saying in politics, Mr. Foster. You vote for the devil that you know than the devil that you don't. Because you know exactly what you're going to get. It's just like a Republican voting for a Democrat than voting for a Rhino, which is a Republican in name only. You vote for the Democrat because you know that's what you're going to get. You're going to get that liberal person. But if you go with the hold on. But if you go with the Rhino, you're not sure what the hell you're going to get.
probably a horn in the ass.
Probably.
You know,
Chief Judge Roberts.
Oh, boy.
True.
Go ahead, Mr. Fost.
Okay, yeah, I've got something to say.
if you have larceny in your heart, you have larceny in your heart. Why elect somebody that is known to have larceny in the heart?
You talking about Heidi?
Oh,
How does she have larceny in her heart?
I don't think she has larceny. I think it was just, first of all, their family does know Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, but she didn't have authorization to use a picture of it.
Oh, I get it.
I think
get
she.
No, that wasn't even her idea.
Yeah.
I get that too. She takes advice from bad people. That's my point.
Yeah.
She's not trustworthy. She can't make her own decision. Isn't that what I said? She can't make her own decision.
Well, she did walk away from policy communications. She did walk away from that corrupt piece of crap, Dave Thomas.
And what did that get her? Sanctioned.
And that also got her, she lost her election too. So,
Yeah,
and he did that to many people that he doesn't like. He's a revengeful asshole.
Yeah. Now, with Heidi, I'm going to vote for her after I found out the information on Jim Davis.
Oh, what did you find out on Jim Davis?
Basically, first of all, we have to thank him for his service. He had a 20-year career in the United States Air Force.
Oh, wow.
He returned from northern Iraq after graduating from the local.
Where did you find that information?
I just typed in his name.
You just typed in his name?
Yeah, but here's the bad
What
part.
happened there, Mr. Phillips?
I was only at the.
You could just type in the man's name. Go ahead.
Here's the problem. A major problem for me. He applied for to be a law clerk under Sandra Pomerantz. So she taught him everything that he knows. And as we
Larceny in his heart.
Yeah, larceny is a hurt. Now, with Pomerantz being the educator and Mr. Davis being the student, Sandra Pomerantz, I'm not going to go on too much about her, but for 15 years, she has damaged and harmed so many families, in the city of Las Vegas, using the children as collateral damage. And more importantly, she is a racist. There's no question in my mind that she isn't. As a matter of fact, I'm not even going to go on, but
She's not on the ballot.
yeah, she's not on the ballot, thank God. But anyway, with Jim Davis, he was a military, and he was schooled by Sandy Pomerantz.
And
that doesn't make him a bad person.
Yes, it does.
Just because he's a friend of somebody or knows somebody. This man has been in the military. He can make his own decisions.
Okay. And just to let you folks know, the veterans in politics don't rubber stamp anybody. If they're a veteran, we thank them for their service, and that's a plus with us, but we don't rubber stamp them, because if we did, we could tell everybody, why don't you just stay home and just the veterans show up. Just like these unions, if you're not the incumbent, you don't get their endorsement. Yeah. But you have other people that are not the incumbent show up and go through your rigorous interview process when you have no intention of endorsing them because they're not the incumbent. So you should just tell them, just say all the incumbents show up and the challengers don't show up, and that's it, instead of wasting people's time. So everybody chimed in?
Show of hands.
So, show of hands for Jim Davis. Show of hands for Heidi Amassi. Okay, Heidi Amassi. It's a good first name, Heidi. I like that name.
That's right.
Recommended. All right, District Court, another brand new seat, Department Z. We have Shel Mercer and Romeo Perez and Matthew Phillips. I hope you got something more than C&E reports.
Well, I went to the Secretary of State's website to look at the contribution and expense report to find out what these guys are up to. But the bigger picture here is there were 4 horses in this race. To understand this one, now Romero Perez, if I'm saying that right, Romeo Perez, he entered on day 1. And you have to believe he's trying to win, definitely. Also on day 1, a guy named Randy Foreman. Now, I know this guy's an attorney with the 8th District, and I've had some bitter arguments with him, but he's really a good guy. I can say honestly, he's a fair guy, a good attorney. But he didn't make it. He didn't make the cut. But he was there on day 1. I think this guy, Randy Foreman, was legit. Now, Shel Mercer is the one that's running against Romeo Perez, or Romero Perez. I want to make sure I say that right. But Shel Mercer, she entered on day 5. And I'm wondering, why she was in the race. Because remember, when it started off on day 1, it was Foreman versus Perez. And then Romeo Perez gave $19,000 to Letizia. So why is he giving this $19,000 to Letizia? There's no R&D. There's no political strategy, And I'm really...
Order some signs for him.
I think they go to PDQ printing for that. The thing is, I'm really wanting to know. I want to take these guys to deposition. I want to know what they're doing. I want to see the receipts. I want to know who's paying and what they're paying for, and what Romero Perez thought he was going to get for $19,000. It raises the question because the Shel Mercer, the only remarkable thing she did was loan herself $1,800. And you would expect to see John Mercer or Mary Mercer or Arthur Mercer or Madeline Mercer or their mom and their dad or their siblings putting in on that joint, but you never see that with some of these people. And so it makes me wonder if, this Michelle Perez was there, Michelle Mercer rather, if she was there as a spoiler, that maybe, this guy Perez is in cahoots. It's totally possible, I suppose. He's in cahoots with Mercer to take votes away from Foreman, and then Mercer makes the cut. It seems to me that Mercer is not putting in the kind of effort that Perez is, and those are the 2 running. Now, there was also a 4th horse in this race, if you can believe it. Who would enter the race with 3 people already in there? Wouldn't you run against Duckworth? And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the Honorable Judge Duckworth, but the point is that why would someone be the 4th one? I just have to ask that question.
I want to stick to the 2 candidates.
So between those 2, I will say that Shel Mercer calls herself a Republican. And I think that's inappropriate to label yourself. It shows bias for judicial candidates to be a R or a D, and I falter for that. I would actually go with Mercer here on this one, because I don't know. It seems like there may be an inference to be drawn. I just don't know. I have these questions, but I would go for her over Perez, because in that outside chance...
Do you have anything about their background?
Nothing.
You can't find... I bet
Nothing.
you Mr. Madoff found some stuff.
I'm sure he's got a bunch of... I'm just looking at the money here, but I would go with Mercer, because maybe she was there to spoil the plans of Foreman, and I think it'd be better to have, the new blood in there, like we've heard today, as opposed to someone
before
Yes.
Mr. Madoff goes, I just want to... Because I know both of these candidates. Michelle Mercer, she ran some time ago, and our group endorsed her. I remember we presented that endorsement to her at Arizona Charlie's. Okay. Romeo Perez has ran before as well, and I remember going to Romeo Perez's office, so for some kind of kickoff party or what have you. But I've been friendly with Romeo through the years, and this group has recommended Romeo Perez in the primary election. But do I have anything bad to say about any of these 2 candidates? I don't. But maybe Robert Madoff would shed some light on there. Something you should have been doing.
Yeah, Michelle Mercer, she has an extensive background in Department of Family Services. She was a fair hearing master, a pro tem hearing master. She also was a truancy diversion judge. She's also on a number of boards, the chiropractor board. She was actually appointed by Sisolak. So I don't know if she's a Republican or not, but she was appointed to a
Sisolak is a Democrat.
Yes, I know that. So I don't think she's a Republican. She's done 25 to 35 trials in family law, which is not really a lot. I just want to look down here for a second, and I apologize. I just want to see if she's ever been sanctioned. She's never had any grievances against her in terms of discipline. She was hired by the director of admissions for the State Bar of Nevada, and she was terminated from them less than a year later. I was let go. I was replaced by a man whose daughter had taken the February bar. I believe I was hired temporarily, quote, these are her quotes, was hired temporarily due to his conflict. She's had no bankruptcies. She's had, have you ever been a principal named litigant in a civil matter? Yes, she was. Back in 2008 campaign, I paid the printer of my campaign signs unknowingly that he had subcontracted the work. The printer failed to pay the subcontractor, and naturally the subcontractor stole all my signs and sued me, so that's nothing. Her biggest financial contributor is Irene Alverson. I'm not familiar with the name. And that's about it.
And what about Romeo?
If you want me to take a look. Okay.
So, anybody else?
I just wanted to add on the.
You already had your turn.
No, on the Republican thing. When you go to the Secretary of State, it'll list like either nonpartisan, which it should say, but some of them will fill out the forms and write Republican or Democrat. She writes Republican, so it comes up Shell Mercer Republican, and I thought that was inappropriate because
is
it
this
shows
a new
bias.
position?
It's a new seat. Yeah.
Who's the most experienced? Does Perez have any experience?
He's gonna look. He's gonna look Perez up. He was gonna look something that Mr. Matthew Phillips should have looked up. Instead of going to C&E reports, you should.
I'm just want to know,
go to
why
their
is this
doggone
guy
website or something, or go to the veteransinpolitics.org and put their names in the search engine and see what you can find.
Well, I want to ask Kevin Speed why he would enter the race on the 10th day.
Well, Kevin Speed is not on.
That's
he's
right.
not here. We're not.
It's true.
That's like history.
But here's my point. I don't think that anybody would, of their own accord, just enter as the fourth candidate, 4-1 odds on day 10 of the filing cycle. There's a strong inference that person may be working, so to speak, with either Romero Perez or one of the other ones. And so that's what I think is most intriguing. If you have a judge who's rigging an election, who's having other people come in to water down votes. Listen, I look at it this way. Trump and Sisolak are talking about the mail-in ballots and stuff because they think their votes are not going to count. If people knew what was going on in these rigged judicial elections,
Mr. Madoff has information on candidates you're supposed to look up.
Yeah, I just want to. I didn't go into detail. This is superficial information, and as people know, if you give me a half a day, I can look up and find their negative attributes to them.
Madoff will find it on you, Frank.
Okay. Actually, he passed the bar in 2004, Romeo R. Perez, and for his 16 years, he's dedicated his law to family law in all areas, guardianship, custody, et cetera, et cetera. Let's see, what else is there? Sure did his biggest cases. I'm just gathering the information. He's how many trials have you done in total? Approximately 8 to 10 per year. So he has some experience. How many jury trials? 10.
You know, I've always seen Romeo in the courthouse. We've always bumped into him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about him, to be perfectly honest.
All right, so let's see.
Okay.
Show of hands. Shell Mercer.
Oh, just one thing. I'm sorry. In 2008, he received a letter of reprimand for having violated Rule of Professional Conduct 1.1 competence. RPC 5.3, supervision of non-lawyer assistants, and RPC 5.5, unauthorized practice of law. I had a law clerk, and this is Romeo's quotes, I had a law clerk who was having an affair with a client and gave false information to her, giving her unrealistic expectations for her case. So his assistant was having an affair with somebody that Romeo was representing.
How is that Romeo's fault, though?
It's not. Absolutely not. He's got no.
Why was he reprimanded?
Because his supervision of non-lawyer assistants. Oh no, I don't blame.
Respondent superior.
Yeah, I don't respect. I don't blame Mr. Perez.
I don't blame him.
Oh,
for that.
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Romeo?
Yeah.
So, Romeo Perez, show of hands. Oh, you switched up. Okay. Romeo Perez, you're recommended.
Mercer.
Romeo Perez, don't confuse the situation here. Romeo Perez, you're recommended again. You're recommended in primary. Now you're recommended in the general election. Moving right along. So that ends the family court list. So now we're going to move on to the Justice of the Peace, Las Vegas Township, Department 12. And we have, I can't read that.
Shannon Clowers Sanborn, hyphenated name, Shannon.
And Diana Sullivan. And Diana Sullivan is the incumbent judge in that seat right now. And Jim Jonas, you had that.
Yeah, I did. Judge Sullivan was first originally elected in 2008. And then was reelected again in 2014 in the RJ poll. She came back with a 75% approval rating, which was good. But then another one was taken last year, and she was at 69%. So she did have a little bit of a drop off, but not by much. Basically, this one is more off my gut. Like, from what I've been told, I don't really see anything super negative about Judge Sullivan. Now, Shannon Clowers is
that Clowers Sanborn? She has hyphenated?
Yeah, Clowers Sanborn. She's actually the chief district attorney right now. She's actually...
In what department? Do you know?
No. It just said that she was a chief district attorney. The one thing about this race that I find interesting, I think we've ran into this before, I don't really have anything against Judge Sullivan, and I think from everything I read, I think Mrs. Clowers is actually a very good candidate as well. Unfortunately, you got to go one way or another. So I don't see any reason why Judge Sullivan shouldn't be retained.
Did either candidate release their whether they're Democrat or Republican, their affiliation?
No, they did not.
Okay.
No, actually, and just to clarify, you're right on that. They can, if they want to, on that. But with nonpartisan races like judge races, if you ask them if they're Democrat or Republican, they're allowed to tell you if they want.
Yeah, they got to be asked.
But they have to be asked. So, no, neither one of them said one way or the other on that.
Anybody got anything else?
Well, Sullivan's been in there for 8 years, and what's her approval rating? 75%.
Well, it was up until last year, and then last year it dropped to 69. Yeah.
Maybe it's time to flush the toilet and get some new blood.
I like it.
Flush the toilet.
Right on.
All right, so show of hands for Shannon Clowers Sanborn.
Yeah, I say take out the trash.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Okay, these two need to go for a drink. These two.
Right.
Show of hands, Diana Sullivan. Okay. Diana Sullivan recommended. Moving right along, Justice of the Peace, North Las Vegas. Oh, wait a minute. Back up. Shannon Claiborne Sanborn, Clowers Sanborn, I know nothing about. Diana Sullivan, I do. We have known Diana Sullivan when she was first run for Las Vegas Justice of the Peace, and we haven't heard anything negative about her or anything that's negative to say that we should not recommend her in any shape or form. She seems fair and knowledgeable on the bench. So, moving right along, and now we recommended her for Department 12. So, Justice of the Peace, North Las Vegas Township, Department number 3. We have Belinda Harris, and we have Chris Lee, who's the incumbent. And Jim, you had this one as well.
Yeah, this was another one of those interesting ones where I'm sure, Robert, if you wouldn't mind, I could not find hardly anything on Belinda Harris. Belinda Harris? Yeah, I didn't even.
That's probably because she's a public defender.
So I like her. I've met her a couple times. She's a really nice lady. But I didn't want to just randomly come in and say, "Hey, yeah, Belinda Harris, yeah, okay, she's good looking, and I like black women, so I didn't."
Welcome to the club.
He sounds like those biased voters.
Yeah. So now you have Judge Chris Lee, and of course being the incumbent. Everybody and their mothers endorsing this guy. So I'm looking through the people that are endorsing him, and it's pretty much the same people you would expect, right? So Mayor Lee's endorsed him. Of course, Wolfson's endorsed him. And I was like, okay, well, then I might be able to kind of shake that off. But then Tick Segerbloom, and I do not care for Tick Segerbloom. And now I do understand that, like, for this seat, it's not like it's an appellate court seat or a Supreme Court seat. So it's not like Chris Lee is going to set precedents. So judicial temperament, Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, doesn't really apply in this case that much. However, again, like, I hate to say this, but I'm gonna not hate to say it. Sorry, Robert. That was kind of disrespectful. I agree with Robert on this one, though. I think I don't really find anything really bad about Judge Lee, but there's nothing wrong with Belinda Harris either. And she was endorsed by the Nevada Veterans Council, whoever that is.
Okay, let me just put my 2 cents.
Yeah, put your 2 cents, because I know which way I want to go.
Belinda Harris, I've met her twice, once at family court, once at the North Las Vegas State of the City Address. She's a public defender. She seems like a very nice person, but you could only be nice so far. You don't know how people are going to be until you put on their robe. Isn't that right, Bill Gonzalez? So. Chris Lee is a veteran. Thank you for your service, Chris. I've known Chris before he was a judge. When he first ran for North Las Vegas Justice of the Peace, he ran against William MacArthur. And I remember we endorsed MacArthur over Chris Lee, and Chris Lee didn't take that. He was a little upset about it. And but that's okay. That's how we went, and that's what we stuck with. I haven't heard anything bad about Chris Lee being on the bench. I know he's a chief judge for North Las Vegas Justice of the Peace right now. He's actively in the Air Force Reserve. I forgot what his rank is in the Air Force Reserve, but he's still active. And that might change Robert Foss's mind over there, because Robert Foss is pro-vet. So I don't know. But Robert Foss likes to take out the garbage, meaning that if you're there more than 4 years, you got to go. But that's my 2 cents on this particular race. Let's go right to Robert Foss, since I've been bringing him up.
The reason that I like to give a new person a chance is because I like change. And I like somebody that comes in with new ideas and new resolve. And I will also say that Jim mentioned temperament. And temperament is a big part of the bench, in my opinion. And I've been before a few judges in my life, I can tell you that. So if you get a judge that gives you a bad time, then you're going to come back at him with the same attitude. But if you have a judge that has even temperament, it calms the litigant down or the defendant down, and you can actually function and maybe resolve something that needs to be resolved, rather than somebody already has a preformed opinion, is prejudicial against you, and just sees you for that. So I say if this guy is a hothead or has a bad temperament on the bench, then I say replace him.
I agree. If he's a hothead, yeah.
I just got some information here. I guess this past, when there was the protest/riot in Las Vegas, John Pyro, who I'm sure you know, he's
a pyro?
P-I-R-O. He's on the district attorney's office, along with Brenda Harris, were arrested accidentally.
How do you
Well, you know what? It's an interesting story. I guess.
Sugar Bloom. Telling you.
Were they public observers at riots?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Our great governor, Sisolak, tweeted his support for volunteer lawyers serving as legal observers for the Black Lives Matter protests. He specifically praised John Pyro and Brenda Harris. However, both of them found themselves in the same places.
Is it Belinda? Belinda.
Belinda. Yeah, Belinda. I'm sorry, Belinda. And they were both arrested and cuffed till it was explained to them that they were the legal observers. Good point. And that's it. I mean, you know, there's nothing about it.
Anybody else?
There's nothing about them, but I think you keep pronouncing Shitolak's last name wrong.
I think I do as well.
Yeah, you
and I
might
do apologize.
want to fix that.
You know, you guys, let me just hold them and go talk about Steve Sisolak.
Sisolak.
I have known Steve Sisolak just when he became a regent. And
We won't hold it against you.
we went from regent to Clark County Commission. And I remember when there wasn't a USO at McCarran, we went to Steve Sisolak to get a military hospitality lounge, and he was down for it. He was helping us along the way until Rory Reed called up Daddy Harry, because Rory was sitting on the county commission when we went before the county commission for that lounge, and told Harry, his dad, you better get a USO here. It'll help you with your polling. And at that time, Harry Reid was in a highly contested race against Sharon Angle. So Steve Sisolak was helping us with that. And there was another thing Steve Sisolak helped us with. There was a terminal ill 17-year-old that his dream was to, he was dying of cancer. His dream was to have his name on a marquee and play in a band. And I went to Commissioner Sisolak and I said, hey, I got this terminally ill 17-year-old. This is what he wants. This is his dying wish. Steve Sisolak set it up, and he got it done. And I've went to many lunches and dinners with Steve Sisolak. Matter of fact, he helped us with, before he flipped over after Joe Lombardo took over when Doug Gillespie left, he supported us on that more cops bill to not have our property tax go up for more cops because of how Metro was spending the money. So he's been there. Now, with that said, I see a lot of change in the governor since he was county commissioner to governor. Big change. Probably one of those changes. Stay away from Steve Sampson because he doesn't return my calls. Yes, Steve, you don't return my calls. When he was county commissioner, return calls. Now he's governor. No calls.
That's because you can't do anything for him anymore.
Probably. He probably reached his height. So, moving back to North Las Vegas, Justice of the Peace Department number 3, between Belinda Harris and Chris Lee. Is there any more discussion on this? Okay, show of hands for Chris Lee. Show of hands for Belinda Harris. Oh, Belinda Harris, you're recommended for North Las Vegas, Justice of the Peace Department 3. Moving right along. Robert Foss, you're on this one with T. Matthew Phillips. So both
right.
of you could chime in.
Good. I have a confession to make. I didn't do my homework. So
That's
I
why-
need a little help from Robert
See-
Madoff and from you.
See, this is why I tell people, know your audience. This
See-
is why I added Matthew Phillips to this.
See,
But I didn't know Matthew Phillips was just focused on C&E reports.
Well, I thought the candidates were going to be here, so it's my bad.
Okay. So we have moved on to Nevada Supreme Court, seat D, between Douglas Herndon and Ozzie Fumo.
Osvaldo Fumo. Well,
Go.
first of all, he's a Democrat, and he calls himself a Democrat, and he's listed that way.
Who we're talking about?
Fumo, Osvaldo Fumo.
Okay.
And I'm always put off by that when they label themselves. And I know they can answer questions, but I think it creates an appearance that he's the Democrat judge for seat D Supreme Court, or Democrat candidate, rather. So I'm put off by that. But looking at Douglas Herndon, it's the damnedest thing. I went to the Secretary of State website with these guys, looking up the C&E reports. Strategic Media Services, $170,000 in Virginia, and I'm wondering, like, what is that money for?
It's for TV commercials. I could almost guarantee you.
That may be because it says media, but then what was interesting also, there's a couple other places he's paying money, $28,000 to October Inc. Okay, and then $57,000.
October Inc. is, if my memory serves me correctly, it's a political consultant firm.
But why is there political consulting in a non-political race? There's supposed to be no R&D action. There shouldn't be any politics. And I'm wondering, what's interesting is $28,000 went to October Inc. and $57,000 went to November Inc. And I understand they're related.
It's a different month.
A different month, I guess, but it's curious. November Inc., according to the Secretary of State, is actually incorporated as a corporation. I couldn't find anything on October Inc., whether they're actually a legal entity or not. So I'm just have questions. What is this money for? Also, Douglas Herndon gave $2,300 in expenses to Hutchison Steffen. And I'm wondering what that's for. I mean, anytime you see a judge giving money to a law firm, I don't know. It may be, but then you got to wonder: when Hutchison and Steffen appears in the Supreme Court in a matter, like in the case I have, the attorneys with Hutchison and Steffen, are they going to get a favor from this guy, Douglas Herndon, because he knows their firm? I mean, it seems to me to be inappropriate. That's on Douglas Herndon. On Osvaldo Fumo, this was curious. He had loaned himself $16,000 during the course of the race and paid himself back $16,000. This has all happened already. And then, if that weren't enough, loaning himself $16,000, paying it back, and then he loaned himself $7,500. Is he going to want to get paid back on that? I don't understand the accounting here.
You know something, Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
C&E report works for people that are advanced in the political spectrum of things.
The brownstone people.
But the regular voters couldn't give one F about a C&E report. The regular voters want to know, is there any corruption?
Well,
Is
I
there
think
any
there-
misbehavior? Tell me experience about this guy.
It's a
How
larceny
long he's
in his
been
heart.
practicing law.
Well,
That's what they want to know.
you asked about the corruption, and what I thought was curious is Osvaldo Fumo paid $44,000 to David V. Thomas of Policy Communications. Why is
He
he
didn't
paying
hear me.
$44,000? I want to know what that money's
He
for.
didn't hear a word I said.
But here's what's
So
here's
Douglas Herndon is running a commercial on TV with him, his wife, and his two daughters. Doesn't he have a son? And wasn't
I
there
don't know.
a thing with his son was being drunk and killed a girl
I don't
in
know.
a car accident about 5 or 6 years ago?
You know anything
Didn't that
about
happen?
I'd have to do some research on that.
Don't anything
Yeah, I
about
think
that.
I
But-
thought that was what it was, because there was a boy that was drag racing or street racing in a truck, a pickup truck, and he had some girl in it, and she got thrown out of the truck and killed. And I'm
You
pretty
should have
sure
brought that evidence with you.
I'm sure that was Douglas Herndon. I'm not making an allegation. I'm just saying, is it? I'm asking the question. But Douglas has had some questionable decisions on the court, on district court. And Ozzie Fumo, he's kind of a low profile guy. He doesn't really get out and get in, and he's not with Black Lives Matter and all these groups that are rioting and burning and looting. And over the two for this position, I would take Ozzie Fumo.
All right, let me. Could I get that pen? Oh, yeah. Let me go before my memory escapes me. Now, I know both of these candidates. Douglas Herndon is used to be a prosecutor, district attorney's office, and while he was a prosecutor, he prosecuted a gentleman named Fred Steeds. And later found out that Fred Steeds was nowhere in Nevada when the murder took place.
860 miles away.
Right. So instead of Douglas Herndon coming up and say, "Hey, we need to get this guy out of prison." I mean, Doug, have you ever been to prison? It's a bad place, man. You don't want to go to prison. Why don't you tell Douglas Herndon about some prison time?
Well, prison's not really a great place, but I was in prison in Canada. Now, I picked the cream of the crop. You know what I mean? I ain't going to get prison in Mexico or Turkey or India. I'm going to go to Canada.
I'm going to go to Canada and commit the crime.
Yeah, we're soft. You do soft time. It's easy. You play tennis every day.
So anyways, apparently what I've been told, we had Ozzie Fumo on the show last week talking about this a little bit. What happened was Douglas Herndon knew about this, had this evidence, and failed to disclose it to the defense counsel. Therefore, Fred Steeds was in jail for what? Prison for 22 years.
For a crime he couldn't have committed.
22 years for a crime he did not commit. So, according to Ozzie Fumo, Douglas Herndon never apologized, never showed it.
It's worse, Steve. He told the dude to take a plea deal so that he would still keep the conviction, and the dude wouldn't be allowed to sue them for keeping the evidence that would have set him free 20 years earlier.
And then Ozzie Fumo mentioned about qualified immunity. Because of qualified immunity, Douglas Herndon couldn't get disbarred. He couldn't get reprimanded. None of that stuff. I'm saying, wait a minute, that's all wrong. And then Ozzie Fumo also brought up that he had two. He was sanctioned twice by the overturned by the Supreme Court. The very Supreme Court he wants to be a part of. Come January, he was overturned twice by the Supreme Court in 10 months. Once he was overturned by violating someone's constitutional right. And you think Douglas Herndon would uphold someone's constitutional right, but he did not. And there was another reason why he overturned. He abused his discretion, and he was overturned in another case. Not only that happened, when the Black Lives movement was going on and people were wearing Black Lives movement pins, a lot of public defenders were wearing Black Lives pins. He was kicking them out of his courtroom. But he never kicked out those people that wore Fraternal Order of the Brotherhood or those other police pins. I mean, if you're going to kick out one class of people out of your courtroom for wearing a pin, you need to kick everybody out your courtroom for wearing a pin.
It's discrimination.
Exactly. You can't say, Bill, Black Lives Matter, you can't come in my courtroom, but you're not even in charge of that. I mean, it's a taxpayer's courtroom. You can't just say, Black Lives Matter, you're wearing that pin, take it off or come out of my courtroom. But the Fraternal Order of the Brotherhood, they can wear the pin and they're okay to come in the courtroom. It's just not good sense.
So what I know about Herndon is just what I've read about him in the newspaper. Well, I read the newspaper every day, and I have for the last 35 years. So I know a little bit about Herndon, and I don't care for him.
Ozzie Fumo, he's a criminal defense attorney. He has a very, very unique story about how he became a criminal defense attorney. And I respect the man, how he became a criminal defense attorney. Explain to us how he became a criminal defense attorney. Ozzie Fumo seems like more of down-to-earth, want to better the community. And Douglas Herndon just seems like somebody just wants some power.
Steve, has Ozzie ever kept evidence that kept a man in prison?
No.
No?
Well, realistically, if anybody withheld evidence from the court, we'll be doing prison time.
Okay, so we got a guy who wants the Supreme Court But he can't even help innocent men stay out of jail.
Exactly.
Knowingly.
I
It's
could,
not a mistake he made.
I could understand if he prosecuted an individual and then later found out that this individual didn't do it.
And then go back and
come
tell the
back
judge,
and say, look, I got the evidence. He didn't do it. We need to let him free. And to add insult to injury, Frank, if this Fred Steeds didn't do the murder, so where's the real murderer at?
Well, not only that, but then he said you can't sue us and we still want to keep our guilty conviction, which also means Fred Steeds would not get the right to vote or carry arms after he got out from being innocent.
And there's another thing. Douglas Herndon's own daughter lobbied for a bill, got it to pass law that says anyone that's wrongfully convicted gets $1 million a year for every year they stay in prison. $1 million a year. So if this law was passed 20-something years ago, right, Fred Steeds would have got $21 million.
So we definitely can't vote that corrupt son of a bitch.
So, anybody else got anything else to say about this?
What is his gun position, Osvaldo Fumo? What is his? Isn't he anti-gun?
No, Osvaldo Fumo
Yes.
is an extreme. Well, I wouldn't say extreme because extreme is bad. He's a constitutionist, and he believes. He said on the show last week that everybody should have the right to bear arms if they are not a felon or anything like that. If they legally could carry a weapon, they should be able to do so.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm
so
down.
the thing with Herndon is you were talking about why isn't somebody else in there for the murder? Apparently there was somebody else that confessed to the murder and they never bring it up. You see what I mean? So how does that work? You know, let's say I want to say, hey, listen, I actually killed this person. They didn't do it. Let's let them out. But they don't bring it up. That's how corrupt this system is. So, I mean, I guess that's your answer. They'll probably never go after the person that they said, because then it's going to make them look bad, right?
They already look bad.
So,
They're exposed.
But think about it. I don't know. I don't remember what year it was when they said, hey, listen, you know, somebody confessed to it. I don't know if it was 20 years ago or whatever it was. But, I mean, the bottom line, it's going to make them look worse, so they're not going to go after them, and I think that's bullshit.
Anybody else got anything?
Vote Herndon the fuck off the bench.
So folks, if Douglas Herndon loses the Supreme Court seat, Douglas Herndon is no longer a district court judge because he vacated his district court seat to run for Supreme Court. So just keep that in mind. And also, when you go to the voting booth, and I want you to really, really do some soul searching. When you go to the voting booth and you see, this is the only statewide race, is this Supreme Court seat, the only statewide race in this general election. When you go to the voting booth or when you do your mail-in ballot and you look at these two individuals, Douglas Herndon and Ozzie Fumo, you just think about that you was in prison for 22 years for a crime you did not commit, and the prosecutor at the time, Douglas Herndon, had the evidence to set you free and did not. And then when all this came to light, made you take a felony plea deal just so he could cover his ass. Think about that. Think about that. The Supreme Court seat is the highest seat for a justice, a judge in this land. Supreme Courts are very powerful. These justices are powerful. They overturn judges. Now, who do you want to overturn a judge? One that has hid evidence, or somebody that has been a constitutionalist for a very long time and would support the human rights that you have? You think about it. So who are we going to endorse again? Recommend?
Fumo.
Show of hands for Fumo. Fumo recommended. Man, this is the last seat. We're going on 3 hours. Thanks to Robert Frost.
Right.
Well, I had to get my book publicized.
No. Nevada Appellate Court seat with Bonnie Beulah and Susan Bush This is you again, Miss C&E.
Yes, well, I went again to the Secretary of State website to look at those contribution and expense reports to find out what these people got going on. And I was surprised here. The Bonnie Beulah apparently gave $14,000 to David V. Thomas of Policy Communications. What is that money for? Let's get David V. Thomas on the show here and ask him to see some of these receipts, what these people are doing. You know. But also, I will say this: she loaned $20,000 to herself. Also,
Susan Bush.
Yeah, no, this is Bonnie Beulah here. Loaned $20,000. Again, is she? The presumption is she's going to probably try to get that money back. And if I were a supporter of hers, giving hard money, and she's just loaning and getting money back on the back end of the campaign, as a supporter, I wouldn't be down with that. The other person, Susan Bush, her total expenses to date are $2,500. That's all she spent on the entire race. She loaned her campaign $477. I don't see, based on spending habits, a concerted effort by Susan Bush. I wonder if she is vigorously contesting the race within the meaning of NRS 294A.
You know what happens. You know what happens, Mr. Phillips.
Yes.
What happens is when these candidates put their name on the ballot, and their peers see it. Mm-hmm. They'll call her up and say, "What are you doing? We really like this person. Why are you running? Don't run against them." And by that time, it's too late. Name is ready in the ballot. Doesn't want to lose face, so they spend limited amount as possible. But in this race with the Nevada Appellate Court seat, I was actually in the Nevada Judicial Selection Committee interview when Bonnie Beulah interviewed, and she was appointed by the judicial. Well, she was recommended by the Judicial Selection Committee and appointed by the governor to fill that vacancy that Abby Silver left when she went to the Supreme Court. Now, Bonnie Beulah used to be a commission. Used to be I forget what they call that. She used to be a judge commission, or I forget the proper terminology. But she was sitting as a judge, appointed judge, before she was appointed to the appellate court seat. Now, Susan Bush ran for district court once before. She was in a law firm with Monty Levy. I believe it was Levy and Bush, or Bush and Levy, and they disbanded the whole thing after the election 6 years ago. So Susan Bush lost her election 5 years ago or 6 years ago when she ran for district court seat, and now she's running for the appellate court. I have nothing negative to say about either any of these ladies that's in this contest.
Yeah, I just wondering if how hard Bush is trying to win.
Apparently not hard enough.
Sincerely, the effort is. You know.
So anybody have anything else?
I believe that when these people loan themselves money, it's a serious political maneuver, and they have to pay the money back. That's all there is to it.
To themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, they pay back to themselves.
So they need money. They need an influx of cash. They take it out of their personal account. They put it in the election account. When they get it back, they put it back. I don't see where it's a big deal.
Well, I think the thing is the fact, but the people who really are spending money, they're not getting it back. I think I don't think you should be able to loan money to a campaign.
Man, I'm so glad I don't drink, because I need a drink.
I need a drink too. I wish I would drink, but seriously, it's disconcerting for me, the amounts of money I see in the
Okay.
It raises inferences.
So, anybody got anything else? Okay. So, show of hands, Bonnie Beulah. 1. Show of hands, Susan Bush. 1. All right, folks, we got
a tiebreaker here.
we got to pick one, and
Which one's the most experienced? Which one of them's the most experienced?
I would say Beulah
the most
is.
experienced one is the one that's in the appellate court right now.
That's Beulah.
That's Beulah.
It's time for a change.
So
I agree. I'm gonna have to go with Susan Bush.
okay, let me see this again. Show of hands, Bonnie Beulah. Show of hands, Susan Bush. Okay, so Susan Bush is recommended for the appellate court seat. Now, before we end this, I want to go through all the recommendations, make sure I got everything right. District Court Judge, Family Division, Department E, Chuck Hoskins. District Court Division, Department G, Rhonda Forsberg, Judge. District Court Department I, Michelle Tobler. District Court Family Division Department J, D. Butler. District Court Division Family Division Department M, Lynn Hughes. District Court Division Department P, Sarah Dayani. District Court Division Department T, Nadine Cutter. District Court Division Department U, Dawn Throne. District Court Division Department W, and these are all family court seats, Shelley Mercer. District Court Division Department X, Heidi Amassi. District Court Division Department Z, Romeo Perez. Las Vegas Justice of the Peace, Township Department 12, Diana Sullivan. North Las Vegas Department 3, Belinda Harris. Nevada Supreme Court, Seat D, Ozzie Fumo, and Nevada Appellate Court, Susan Bush. Gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for your time. It's been a very, very long 3 hours.
Lots of fun.
I just wanted to say that next week, same time, Wednesday, I believe that's September, whatever. 23rd. We're going to be talking about the civil and criminal bench, and that would conclude the entire the entire judges that are on the ballot. We encourage everybody to pay attention to these judges. They will. Who turned out the lights?
Robert saying the
Robert, you're not even an electrician. These judges and justices will affect your life immediately. They're at the bottom of the ballot, but they should be on top of the ballot because they affect your life immediately in a very, very personal way. We need to pay full attention to this. We didn't sit here for 3 hours because we have nothing better else to do. We're here just to give the public a better understanding on these candidates that are running for judicial seats, and hope that when you go to the voting booth to fill out your mail-in ballot, you be educated on these candidates running, and you just don't willy-nilly pick somebody just because willy-nilly picking somebody will cause 6 years of hate and discontent. Depends on how badly these candidates are, and we hope that we were educational to you and you could use this, and please share this video. And this is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas, Robert Madoff, Matthew Phillips, Frank Friends, Robert Foss, and Gianno Amato with Veterans in Politics. Until next time.